So I apologize if I start coughing and sneezing. I still am recovering. I got like the cold like symptoms. So if you see me doing some weird stuff in the background, don't mind me. I'm just dying slowly. But welcome to episode 4 of the Out of Mana podcast. I'm here with the real Shiesty. How you doing?
I'm doing. How about yourself? I mean, you sound a lot better than last week. Let me first say that. I know you said you're still feeling a little down, but overall, you sound fantastic.
Oh man, dude, I've been huffing and puffing my way through the week, and like I said, it's just more of a congestion at this point, like like a
Mm-hmm.
cold. So I'm just
Mm-hmm.
waiting for that to go away, and then I'll be
Mm-hmm.
I'll be golden again. But so starting this off, you know how we talk about the games we play. I started playing Octopath Traveler's Champions of the Continent. Is that what's called?
Correct.
Now, you were talking about it, how you've been playing it, and I know that you posted some stuff on Twitter about you getting a special character.
Um, well, the one that's current, like time gated, I guess, or limited time. So I think it ends like I forgot the 24th or something. So yeah, it's been out for. I think they give them like a 2 week period. So yeah, and this was only the second one because the game is still fresh.
Okay, so because of you, I decided to download it and play it. I knew that it was gonna take me some time because I really don't like the controls of mobile games. Like mobile games have evolved, and I've seen graphics, from Apple Arcade and all that stuff, and how good they look now, which impresses me that phones can do that. But the controls always deterred me from the games. But with
Mm-hmm.
With Octopath Champions of the Continent, I really tried. I gave it about 2 hours,
Mm-hmm.
and I felt like that was a decent amount of time. Maybe I might get used to controllers. I'm still probably gonna play more just to give it its fair shake. But
Uh-huh.
the graphics look good. I do
Mm-hmm.
like how the combat is kind of mixed with like a old Final Fantasy mixed with new Final Fantasy, where if you attack, you stagger enemies to do more damage, and then depending on if you swipe correctly, which I've done incorrectly multiple times, you can buff your attacks to like times 3.
Correct. Yeah.
And I always fat fingered the button to times 3 instead of times 2 or 1. And
Gotcha.
I as much as I like the look of the game, I'm not gonna say my hands are massive. Like if you see my hands basically the size of an iPhone,
Mm-hmm.
but my thumb keeps going across multiple buttons at the same time, and I keep screwing up like fighting and walking.
Well, it sounds like you need to first off invest in a nice little stylus here and, and play with a stylus. No, I'm just kidding. But no, I get your point. I tend to have that issue sometimes myself, so it has nothing to do with your hands. I've done it myself. So
I thought I
yeah,
just
the
had
whole
pudgy
place.
fingers.
Yeah, no, the whole playstyle is. I mean, the game for the most part is very mirrored like to the original, but there are some differences, right? Like the movement, of course, is different from mobile to the real game because the real game you're able to kind of move wherever versus this you're on a set path, so to speak. But what I
You're on an
do like
octopath.
yeah, but what I do like is after you do, and you'll learn these things on your own. But one little piece of advice, I guess, is when you start navigating certain areas that you've already been through, just to kind of like quick move yourself. I guess you wouldn't be moving quicker, but if you click on the mini map on the top right, then you could just click anywhere on that particular area, and it'll auto move you. You'll still
Okay.
encounter all combat and all that stuff, but then you won't have to do it yourself, right? You just ping where you want to go, even to the point where it'll even put you through that zone into the next zone. So there's a lot of little things like that that make what do they call it, quality of life improvements or something. But yeah, so you bring that up. Yes, I'm still playing it every day, and I mean every day. And oh man, I forgot to check the time that I've invested in it total so far. I might have hit 60 hours already
in that game alone?
in that game alone already. Dude,
Wow,
I'm
that's
telling you, man. You not that you really give me slack, but like, yes, I do play fewer games, fewer far between. But when I play them, I play them. I play them. So yeah, I'm still enjoying it, and I know you've only put a couple hours in, but the more you put in, it'll be nice to see what your true thoughts are. I guess
Yeah, I don't want to like give you hope that I'm gonna get addicted to it because honestly the
you
controls really deter me.
you
But
you don't. I'm not. I mean, I think hopefully at some point you may get over it, but if you don't, and that's the contributing factor to you not being able to enjoy it, hey, it is what it is. It's.
yeah, like if I was able to get like one of those handheld things where I could put it and play like a controller, I think I'd be better. Because like the last mobile game I played, I'm not sure if you really want to call it a mobile game, was the Call of Duty Zombies one on your
Mhm,
phone years ago, and like that's the last one I played. Like, and I love zombies, but I hate the mobile controllers. So
mhm.
I'm like, maybe I might have to try a stylus or see if it's compatible with handheld mode. But it's just for some reason swiping always like turns me off, and I don't know why. Like Octopath, the gameplay, like I like it because it reminds me of Final Fantasy. I haven't played Octopath on the console yet. It's on my system. I've I'm gonna play it soon. But like I
Mhm.
played games like that, and I like it. It's just those freaking controls, man.
No, I agree with you. The controllers are a little rough, but I think for me personally, even with console games or any game, controls is something you have to get used to. I mean, this doesn't even really compare to like last week I brought up Final Fantasy VII First Soldier, which is first person battle royal type or not, yeah, whatever. So that requires a lot more faster, dare I use the word faster, movement and technical movement and all that crap. So to get even acquainted with that on mobile was such a challenge, but through much dexterity, you overcome it and you learn it.
I
So,
wouldn't even say that. Like I play a lot of games that have different controls, different feels. From console to
mhm,
PC
mhm,
to even DS.
mhm.
I've been able to adapt. For some reason, it's just that touch and swiping feeling. I just doesn't work for me.
I mean, when you have so many years on your belt with a joystick or even mouse and keyboard, I get it. Like the whole idea of just like you're not getting that that tangible feelingness of pushing a button or anything like that. Or I think you could turn vibration on. Maybe if you turn vibration on, maybe it'll make it
My
feel
phone
better
just
for
starts
you.
buzzing.
But I get it. I really do. It is tough, but um, I mean, maybe for me it was more like I'm gonna get over this no matter what, and it's just gonna be something in the back of my mind then. But we'll see. I mean, if it is what it is, and that's you can't overcome it, you can't overcome it. But
I mean, obviously, I'm on the beginning stages. Like, I did the tutorial, where it walks you through the frozen lands, the combat, and all that
mhm.
stuff. Um, from what I played, I really liked it. It's just, like I said, the only negative is controls. But other than that, the game is really solid. I was impressed with how it looks visually. The graphics on it are pretty good. Uh, but yeah, I'll probably give it like maybe another 5 hours, and if it doesn't catch me in 5 hours, then I think I'm just gonna be done with
five
it.
5 hours is a long time.
I like to give everything like because it's the controls that is my negative. That's why I'm willing to give it more time and maybe I adapt to it.
Mhm.
But if I can't get adapted to the controls, I'm just gonna have to drop it, just like I've
Yeah,
done with all that with the other mobile game I played.
yeah, it is what it is. I mean, if it's not meant to be, it's not meant to be. But maybe if it ever does switch to a different platform, then you have no excuse.
Dude, I would definitely play it if it was on Xbox, PlayStation, or Switch. And like
Yeah.
it's good so far. Like I played it and I like it. But besides Octopath Traveler, have you been playing anything
Yes.
else?
No, but I really do need to find and set aside time to because I really do want to complete triangle strategy for sure. I was liking that a lot too when I was playing it. Without spoiling it, like what really drawn me to triangle strategy. Well, for most part, believe it or not, it's usually story, but it does reminiscent of me of like a Game of Thrones theme, like a little bit, ever so slightly. So that's why I like I'm really enjoying it from what I played thus far. But my problem with that game is like just juggling so many games that I could very much easily contribute like another 60 to 80 hours in. Like, and that's where I think the road it would probably go with that game. Or I'm thinking that game might be really short and they want you to actually replay and experience it multiple times because that game, they give you decisions that alter the storyline. So usually when they make games like that, they generally don't make them extremely long because they want you to go back and play them. I'm like, what's those games that you've been playing on stream where you just, it's all really just choices. You're not really, I mean, I hate to say this, but it's not really like you're playing a game.
Yeah, it's,
But
it's just a narrative-driven, choice-based game. That's it.
exactly. But Triangle Strategy is an actual game because it's a strategy-based type gameplay. But within that, there are decisions that you make that do have an effect on the story. So.
And obviously, I haven't played this. It's just I have other friends that play it, and they told me that I'm not sure if this is if they did it incorrectly, or whatever. But they said that the first playthrough, you won't unlock everything. You had to play through it again to get different characters, and those different characters equals different outcomes. Is that true?
And you're talking about Triangle Strategy?
Yeah.
I don't know. I haven't did it. Like, if that's the thing that you have to do multiple playthroughs, then that's interesting because I haven't done it one playthrough yet. But
Okay.
that was my thing, was like, is it going to be a super long game, or is it going to be a shorter game in which then they want you to replay multiple times?
They told me it was like maybe 12 to 15 hours per playthrough, depending on like how hard the difficulty is. Because apparently,
Interesting. Yeah, there is a.
I was
I'm
just gonna
sorry.
say every time they play through it, apparently it gets harder because it's on New Game Plus.
That
So
makes sense. And
the
I thought
playthrough
there
gets a
was
little harder.
and I thought there was a difficulty actually that you could try or set it at. I'm sorry. So that's interesting. Okay, well, that might actually drive me to play it then, and maybe knock it out at least one playthrough. See, like I like, how can I put it? I like that because then I'll be able to experience the whole story. But then it gets me question like, well, fuck, how many times do I got to do this? Like, because
Yeah, according to the one friend that played it, he's played it 3 times, and so far every single playthrough he's done to unlock other characters, the story changes because obviously certain main focal points in
interesting.
the game stay the same, according to him.
Okay,
But when you unlock new characters, new dialogue will be unlocked,
that
and then
makes sense.
another
I
pathway will
can
be available.
That makes sense. That's very interesting. So okay, now I'm thinking about it in another capacity where you're playing it multiple times to unlock multiple characters, but they're kind of like, is this, dare I say, like this ultimate story that you have to like have all the characters unlocked and have all the right decisions made to get to like that final ending, if that makes sense.
I don't know. He's only told me about his 3 playthroughs and how it was different every single time. Obviously, there's some similarities depending on the characters,
Yeah,
but because there's new characters, the story changes.
interesting. Okay, okay. Well, I
But
guess I'll have to experience it myself.
yeah, you're gonna have to let me know how that is.
Yeah.
But myself, to I guess to kind of wrap this up is, have you ever played a game that you like the concept of it, like the concept of the game, and it has potential, but it was
Mm-hmm.
poorly executed?
Ah, poorly executed. In what capacity?
So
Or it doesn't matter what that capacity is.
it doesn't really matter because I've been playing Blue Dragon, and it's kind of like an RPG-esque game where it's like
I've heard
you.
of that one.
It was originally anime, and then it was adapted into a game because Xbox wanted exclusives, and unfortunately, this was the era. If it didn't work, Xbox just
Mm-hmm.
dropped it.
Mm-hmm.
But basically, it could have been Final Fantasy level, but they just didn't work on it hard enough.
Let's see. Man, that's a good question. I know there has been, but damn, I'm just blanking out right now. If that was like a topic I knew would have came, I probably would have had something for you. But off the top of my head, I mean, this isn't really the answer probably best suited for this question, but like I know one time in my past that the very, 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 very first Assassin's Creed I was looking forward to, and then the moment I popped that disc in and learned what the story actually was, I was so devastated. I legit returned the game same day. Like I couldn't play anymore because I was like, "This is what the story is. Fuck that! I just wanted something that." Spoilers. That was just in that era, and you're playing a character that's. I don't want to go through this whole generation thing that like, oh, he's a descendant or blah blah blah. I'm like, that is fucking dumb. Why'd you do that? Now I know you like the series. I know it's a very successful series. Wasn't my cup of tea. I was hugely disappointed. But I don't think that's the answer you're looking for.
It's kind of I'm not gonna disagree with you. I just think it's funny that that was your main pet peeve because
It
yet
was.
yes, that you do sometimes go back in the animus, to go back into your past self, but the majority of the game is in the past. Like you
I know
play.
that. I know that. I know that. I know that. I know that. But and that's what lured me to the game, right? Because all the marketing was driven towards that. And I was like, this fucking looks awesome. This game looks great. Da da da. And then and maybe that's my own fault. Maybe that information was out there, and if I learned it, I'd be like, well, that just ruined it for me. No, I pre-ordered the game, I bought the game, stuck it in, and the moment I learned, I'm like, this, I'm just like my boner was like I was just devastated. And that is the only game out of my entire quasi-professional gaming career that I purchased and returned back to them same day. Only game.
You know what?
Only
I almost want to.
and I've never touched another Assassin's Creed again.
Well, you might like the new ones then because they kind of stopped doing the whole animus thing. But it's funny how a very minor part of the game that doesn't happen often, like maybe just for a couple cutscenes, turned you off so much.
Dude, I can't. I told you my reasoning, but like I can't even explain to you why I was so fucking devastated. But I was.
I mean, I can understand. There's been things that turn me off in games. It's just funny that one of the smallest parts of the game, you're like, nah, fuck it, I'm done.
Yeah, but I'm just being honest.
That makes sense. But yeah, I've been playing. For some reason, one of my things is I like to pick up games that are either under the radar or weren't really appreciated at the time. And Blue Dragon's one of those games that it had so much potential. It had promise. It was unfortunately not developed fully, and they cut development after the game was released because there should have been a second part. But that's just me because I feel like they could have had their hands on a Final Fantasy level game. They just decided not to invest in it.
No, I guarantee there's been definitely fair share of games that probably fall in that category for me that I actually did play like from beginning to end, and I'm like could have been more, but I just truly can't really think of anything off the top of my head. But maybe throughout the podcast, if someone just knocks me on the noggin, and then I'll be like, hey, remember pre-topic one? I got an answer for you.
Okay, before we get into the actual topics, I do want to. So, I've been editing clips, I've been posting on social media, and whatever. But basically, since I was sick, I had to go back and get clips for episode 2 and 3, and I noticed something about I was trying to figure out why we were so off touch with this one little topic, and it's graphics. No, it's graphics.
Okay.
I think I finally understand why you were against what I was saying about graphics, because you're assuming graphics equals art style, meaning like photorealistic. Graphics don't have to be full motion 3D. They don't have that. That's not graphics. That's just one part of graphic or one style of graphics. Because when we were talking, go ahead.
I know what you're saying, and I'm not trying to sound like the old dog here, but like you gotta remember, for me growing up from 8-bit, pre-8-bit to where we're at now, like the term graphics is always going to be attributed to just realism.
I guess
I know that's not right. I understand that, but that's my default mechanic when I hear the word graphics, and I'm sure.
And that's what I realized when I'm going back and watching it. Is that's what you assorted to, and that's where our clashing came about. Is that So I just thought it was funny that I went back. I was editing, and I noticed that you associate graphics with more realisticness, and I was like. I was just like, sitting in my chair, and I'm like, what? That's what he was thinking the whole time? That's what we had these stupid debates about?
But to that point, though, now, if I may segue just little briefly to like Octopath, like, I would consider those graphics beautiful. I consider
they are good graphics.
Of Wind Waker beautiful. I think the graphics of, like, Breath of the Wild beautiful. Like, a lot of games... I love the graphics, no matter whether it looks like Octopath all the way to freaking the re-release of Final Fantasy VII. Like,
yeah, those are good graphics.
They're fantastic. Or whatever. But I know you take it to more of a technical standpoint. And that's fine. That's great. I mean, I think we're on the same wavelengths to a certain capacity. Our differences are a little bit. We still have discord definitely with the technical aspect. Like it drives you up the wall versus me. I could get past a little bit of a 0.5 second lag spike or something. I don't know. Like once again, I come from a breed of 8-bit games, and I've played things that were never fluid. So for you, I think with your reaction time, because also you're very heavy into first person shooters, where your refresh rate and everything has to be superb. Otherwise, like your eyes are probably well more trained than I, that you pick that shit up. Me, once again, maybe it's the old dog in me, but like I'm not catching that shit sometimes. I really am not.
I'm so glad you said that, because that's really where these little debates come in, is because
Mm-hmm.
like you said, I'm more used to the shooter games, so that's why I can tell it. Not that there's a bad thing with not playing those games. Like,
Mm-hmm.
honestly, if I could untrain my eyes, that'd be awesome, because there's been times where, like, for example, Destiny, I went
Mm-hmm.
back on the PS4 and played it, and I'm like, oh my god, the frame rate is so bad I can't play it, because
Mm-hmm.
going from like PS5 to PS4, it's like,
Mm-hmm.
ooh, yeah, I don't know how I
Mm-hmm.
did this.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But it's just like those
Yeah.
little performance things that, like, when you're used to a certain standard, it's like
Mm-hmm.
you want everything to be that standard.
Mm-hmm.
But I
And
see your point too.
yeah, and I mean you easily can get spoiled, and that's been like, I know a lot of our debates have been off stream as well, or I'm sorry, off podcast, but like going back to talking about how you want PlayStation or even Nintendo. I know heavily in Nintendo to do better and be better and da da da, and like I'm not disagreeing. I would love it, but like it's not deterring me for the appreciation of what they've provided us. Like, and I mean, and maybe that's just me being a fanboy, and I can understand that, but it's not that big of a detriment that it's like I need to shit on it and I need to like not give them my money, or so to speak. But that's just my take when we're having these debates.
And it's funny that you say that, because most of the time, Nintendo games, when they don't have that peak performance, I'm
Mm-hmm.
mostly okay with. Like Pokemon, for example, can easily get away with that, because the
Mm-hmm.
gameplay doesn't rely on
Mm-hmm.
reaction time.
Mm-hmm.
But I use Zelda Breath of the Wild for my main example, because I,
Mm-hmm.
I played that game. I haven't
I played that
fully
game.
I haven't fully beaten it,
Uh-huh.
but the majority of the time I played it, my eyes were hurting because of how bad it was skipping. And
Like man, I you know what? I gotta make it my homework, but maybe next time we have a conversation like this, and put it on and see if I can know exactly what you're talking about. Because like, if you're talking about like getting a critical hit on an enemy and it has like a little bit of like I think that's intended.
well, no, so the lag that, well, obviously there's two different modes, which I don't understand how this works, because I thought the handheld would perform better than the
Mm-hmm.
the docked version, but the docked version
Mm-hmm.
actually gives you better performance. But when I played in handheld mode, and when I was
Mm-hmm.
traveling, the rendering kept on like lagging in and out, and then also when I was walking, I kept skipping.
So for that game in particular, I would say I probably play 97% of it on the TV, on the dock. So if it does do that on handheld, then that may explain why I didn't know about it. If that's really predominantly where it's happening, um, but
For
I don't know.
from my experience, it's been more handheld. I did play in docked later on in the game, and
Mm-hmm.
the lagging seemed to happen less frequently, but it was still there.
Mm-hmm.
But it was just weird that, whenever I was walking, and then like when I reached like a certain zone and it starts
Mm-hmm.
running the next zone, that's when
Mm-hmm.
the lag really hit hard. Where I was just like basically 1-2 stepping into a couple areas.
I'm gonna give a horrible comparison here, but hear me out. So, like I said, if it's happening, um, I'm not noticing it, and the reason why too is probably because like I'm just so enamored by obviously the franchise that I'm clearly overlooking it and probably not caring. So like it's almost being so attracted to a particular person. Like it's like they're gonna have flaws, but I don't really give a fuck about their flaws because I really like that person. I really am into that person. You're
And
never gonna have perfection. There's going to
well, I
be
meant there's
something like,
games that got really, really close to perfection.
well, what
But
was it?
so
Wait, hold on. Talking about what game or what'd you say?
well, most of the Nintendo games are close to perfection and
Oh
the way
well,
they've been developed. But like for example, like
I
Breath.
was gonna say the re-release of FF7 to me was pretty damn close to
Oh,
perfection,
it
but that's
definitely
me.
is.
That's the one game that I clearly put hashtag masterpiece because that shit was done so fucking well.
But so I think it's only for a select big open world games on Nintendo. I think my problem is like, for
Mm-hmm.
example, you let me borrow um, Zelda: Link's Awakening, and I had no performance issues on that because I guess the loading, maybe because it wasn't big,
Mm-hmm.
world
Mm-hmm.
wise, I had no problems. But for some reason, any big open world game on Nintendo Switch has always had been an issue for me, like Legends of Arceus, Zelda Breath of the Wild.
Odyssey.
Honestly, not so much because I think you have to load into the levels. I think
That's
that's
true.
already pre-rendered.
Mm-hmm. That would
But
make sense.
Xenoblades was another one of those, and
Well,
Monster Hunter.
Pokemon actually still use zoned into different areas. I mean, granted, some of those areas are large scaled
Legends of Arceus was the
compared to
only
most games,
Pokemon
but
game that I've experienced the lag step. Sword and Shield wasn't as
well,
much because of the zoning, like you mentioned.
Sword and Shield had a lot more zoning, but Arceus still had the zoning because the main town was its own zone, and then every what was it like 5 or 6 major zones. I mean, like I said, the zones themselves are pretty large. Not to mention a lot of the, um, how I was going to say material, but I'll still use material that are in the zones, what they call the Pokemon and all the other crap. So there's a lot of probably information being done um, live, but yeah, Breath of the Wild totally. I mean, that's all just massive. Like it's just one big ass fucking map.
And I do appreciate that Breath of the Wild was one of those launch titles because I feel like Breath of the Wild is like the highest the highest game that they can make to push the performance of the Switch, and anything past they'll probably break the system.
Yeah, that was incredibly shocking. And now that we discuss it more, it truly is a feat of that magnitude to have it as a launch title. To your point, for like the first title for the brand new system, push it to, I mean, for what we understand to be the max potential, but like, yeah, that's why like I know we had this topic a couple weeks ago with the Pro Switch and all that, and it'd only be fitting that if one were to come out with a better processor and better what have you, that the Zelda sequel would be the launch title for that.
Mm.
But man, we haven't gotten no news on that, which is to me a little baffling at this point, and we're way more than halfway through the year, and we haven't gotten nothing.
I love how they gave us a release date once, and then they just been radio silent ever since. Like I think it was
Well,
2020. They showed at was it E3 or the Game Awards? Breath of the Wild 2, just like a little snippet, and it says
uh-huh.
fall 2021, and then nothing since.
No, there was one. It might have been actually multiple instances, but the creator, his name is escaping me. He legit just came out and said, "Look, we're sorry, date was wrong. We don't have any date right now, and we don't want to bring it out unless we know it's complete and it's the best thing that they could put out there," which I totally respect, and I have absolutely no problem, Wayne. And now I thought about that game that let me down. Final Fantasy 15 let me down for sure. But I think I mentioned that last week as well. So.
Was it because of the microtransactions?
Not really the microtransactions. It's just like, oh man, because that game they spent 10 years making. 10 years making. And I still enjoyed it. Let me say that. I enjoyed it. But I also felt like I was forced to enjoy it because I waited 10 years for it. But it was a letdown. Like I felt for Final Fantasy, storytelling is such a big thing, at least for me, a big deal. In that game, I felt like they did a horrible job with it.
Interesting. So
A horrible job with it.
my opinion probably wouldn't be hold much weight because I've only played a handful of Final Fantasies and then went back. So my first Final Fantasy was Final Fantasy VIII with Leon, using that big freaking sword gun.
Sword gunner, huh?
And then I played X2, and then the third Final Fantasy game I've ever played was 15. And I really liked the open worldness and the traveling, but then I also go ahead.
No, go finish. I'm sorry.
I was gonna say I also this I might understand where you're coming from with the story because I like seeing. I forgot the character's name. It's been a while since I played it, but you basically start off as the young prince. You build your team of friends, Noctis. You build your team of friends, and then eventually you progress through his ages until he's like an old man.
Well, you don't even recruit his friends. Basically, the whole team is assembled at the very start, which is also a little bit different than most Final Fantasies, but that's fine. That wasn't really what that didn't really bother me.
Oh, I'm thinking about the DLC where you have to play as like the friends in the episodic adventures.
Correct, and like I said, that whole and I will say for what it is, that whole scheme, I did not care for. I really do think though, and this is not 15's fault, but I really think that was their way of, trying it out. I really felt like they wanted that to be the model for potential future series, and I hope to God that doesn't happen with 16 because right now I'm really liking how 16's looking. Like it's just, oh my God, it's looking really good. But so yeah, that's one that definitely let me down.
Wait, so. Sure. I think I probably interrupted you, but what did you not like about the story?
I don't like how it was told. Like it was, and that might seem odd because like the regular Octopath kind of was in this facet where like you played through all of the character stories, but the character stories in some capacity were almost like all side stories versus the main story was something you kind of had to piece together. And that's kind of how I felt like 15 was. So it's odd that I kind of liked it for Octopath, but I didn't like it for 15. Because like don't get me wrong, 15 had a story, right? But to me, it didn't feel complete. It didn't feel like we got a beginning and an end. We just had a middle. That's why I didn't care for it that much.
I may be remembering it differently because I played it. It came out 2015, right?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And I played it basically 2015 or 16 whenever all the DLC was released.
Mm-hmm.
But it's funny that you say that there's only a middle because for me it felt like there was a whole complete story, and then maybe it's because the DLC might have tied this up. But Final Fantasy 15 was the only game I think I may have experienced where you start off as a young character and progressively get older and watch a kingdom grow.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And I think that's what I liked.
Well, I mean, the kingdom really didn't grow because pretty much the world went to shit while he got old. Spoiler alert. But I will say this. Here's a takeaway that I think, or at least from my 2 cents, they did really well. And I don't know if you've actually experienced it, but what I did like they did for DLC, and I did play the shit out of this, and I probably wish they gave more to it because me and my buddy were playing it pretty heavily. During that time, Noctis was whatever, in a coma or whatever. I can't remember what the circumstance was, but when he was away, they released a DLC. What was it called? Comrades, I think. And you then created your own character, and you were playing through the Dark World and just doing all these different quests and missions. And basically, it was supposed to span during that time while Noctis was away. Mm-hmm. That I enjoyed the shit out of. It was an easy, fun thing. I shouldn't even say easy. It was just fun. And I think it was like maximum 4 players, like per mission or something. So, yeah, that I enjoyed the shit out of. But the main story, like, I mean, once again, graphically, and using that term now loosely compared to our definitions, but I thought it was beautiful. The open world, once again, I liked that as well. It's just the story, like, no, sorry. And because like what I really wanted to experience a lot more was like, what was the name of the kingdom? Was it Lucretia or something? I can't remember. Maybe not. Maybe I'm butchering that, but we never got to go there except at the very, very end, but you couldn't really navigate through it. And then the only time you were able to experience it was like when you were playing episode Arden, if you did that, which was cool. But I kind of was hoping we got more there. And then also, I also feel like that game got cut a lot. Like, I think they wanted to do more episodes, and maybe even they had their own fatigue because I felt like there's so much that could have been utilized, and it just wasn't.
So, now that you mention it, you have a really good point with the DLC episodes because I was fortunate enough to play it all, when it was all complete. But if I didn't have that, I think I could see where the gaps come in because there's also two movies, animated movies that came out too for 15 that tie with the father and Noctis, like the little gap period and how the evil I forgot his name, but he was like the advisor that basically betrayed the king and made it ruin. And I think the movies were also mandatory watch to get the whole story for 15 as well.
Yeah, and that's why I didn't like it, because it was maybe from their perspective they had this massive marketing scheme that they're like, oh my god, this is going to be successful, we can't wait to do it. And depending on the fan base, I mean, I'm not saying they're wrong for taking it in and enjoying it, everyone has a right to. That's fantastic. Like, I know there's people out there that love it to death, and that's fantastic. It just didn't work for me. And to those movies, I didn't know there was two, so I have to double check that.
I could be wrong about the second one. I know there was they released two animated movies at the same time, one with the king, and I thought it was one with Noctis that I always call Sasuke because he looks like another character. And I don't know. I could be wrong. For some reason, I'm remembering two movies, and I think they're on Amazon.
I'll have to look, but I know I watched Kingsglaive because it came with the collector's edition I bought, and that was the prequel. So I did watch that and I enjoyed it very much so because it's CGI and it looked beautiful. But if there is something else, then I would have to find that. But to your point now, and this is why it's different experiences, right? Because you said you played it when you had the complete saga, and that's the way it should have been released, and not through these different fucking episodes and microtransactions. I experienced it from the whole opposite angle, right? I had the main game with no episodes, played through that, and then I forgot who was, I think Gladio was the first one released, and then the camera guy, I can't think of his name, and then the guy with the glasses, like, I learned a new recipe. Yeah, so, and then Arden, which the Arden one was, I think, the one a lot of people were probably looking forward to the most. I know I was. And then they kind of painted him to kind of come off as a good guy. And then it's like, well, is not this somehow bad in some weird way? Which is kind of okay because I don't know if you know the history of it. And like I said, they took it 10 years to make this damn game. But initially, before the way it ended, or the way the game came out, was it was supposed to be called Final Fantasy 15 Versus. And it was supposed to be two whole separate games in which I guess Noctis was probably in one version painted as the good guy and then another version painted as the bad guy. So it's just, there's just so much going on there.
Do you think there was also supposed to be like a tie-in with Kingdom Hearts?
I hope not.
Because
but I've never played any Kingdom Hearts.
Oh, you haven't?
No.
Okay, so it's interesting that you love Final Fantasy, but you haven't played Kingdom Hearts. Well, I guess it's weird too because I played Kingdom Hearts and I barely played any of the Final Fantasy games, even though they're realistically the same thing. But in Kingdom Hearts, you do see Leon. You do see is it Tifa or there's basically another girl. She looks like one of those, the whatever those little yellow vendors with the red ball on their head.
Oh, Moogles?
Yeah, Moogles. You have those characters. You have a couple of the female characters. I think it's just from Final Fantasy VIII. And then Sephiroth is in there too.
Yeah, I know they're all in there, but I mean, Kingdom Hearts isn't canon to anything. Kingdom Hearts is only canon to Kingdom Hearts.
And yeah, well, yeah. I guess, but I feel like there were
Well, you just quickly push that. Yeah, well, I guess, but
no. I was thinking about it because like Kingdom Hearts is kind of canon to Kingdom Hearts, but I feel like because of so many Final Fantasy characters in Kingdom Hearts 2 and 3, they really try to connect it because Kingdom Hearts 3 goes into another world where it almost looked like Noctis, but they're painting as like a different guy now. Um,
so I've never sat and read like extreme fan theories, but they're out there where people have, or dare I say, successfully, because Square Enix has never come out to confirm, but people have tried to connect Final Fantasy universes together. Like I believe somewhere someone was trying to say like uh, I think 10 might could be somehow a prequel to 7, which then 7 would then run into 15. Like there's people that have tried. Like I said, I've never sat and read them. I try to look at them each individually as their own universe and entity, and that's it.
could it be like different planets? Because Final Fantasy 6, 7, 8, and 9 are all connected. And the only reason why they're connected is because of Tifa.
What? No, you're crazy.
Final Fantasy 6 had Tifa, right? Well, I might be getting
No,
that
not
wrong. Huh?
7 has Tifa.
So who was in 6? Was
Eight,
she?
6. Well, 6 has a lot of characters. Six
I thought
has
6 had Tifa as a cowboy when they were going into like the research facility and Cloud was there.
no. That's happens in 7, but that's like something that happened in their while they're younger.
Okay, so then maybe I'm just thinking about 7, 8, and 9 then, because I know that Tifa eventually does meet up with Leon in one of the other games.
Sure, it's just not an Easter egg.
I mean, if she's there, it's still considered canon, isn't it?
I
And
don't
I
know
think she
about
was
that.
a, I think she was a main character.
That's just like Super Mario RPG having Link in one of the inns sleeping on the bed, like, oh my god, all the universes are connected.
So I wish I could debate this better because it's been so long since I
No,
played these games.
I like once again to your point. I'm sure there's super fans out there that have tried to connect these dots and wrote some very um really good material that I'm like, oh my god, like this sounds very credible, like it makes sense, like very believable. I just don't.
Yeah, because I know Final Fantasy 1 and 2 are definitely much different than each other. Well, just because the villain that was told, but in my opinion, the villain in Final Fantasy 1 or 2 might be the coolest villain ever, because he has like this giant. He basically looks like a mech angel kind of thing.
So 1, 2, and 3, I think are the ones I just didn't play at all.
If you had played, okay, so because of Final Fantasy 15, me catching on to it, because of PlayStation Now, which is I guess now PlayStation Plus, they
Mm-hmm.
had all the classic Final Fantasy games on there.
Oh
So
yeah.
I got to go back and play them, and
Mm-hmm.
that's how I got to experience the rest of them. But
Mm-hmm.
the main villain in 1 or 2 was probably my favorite villain, but
Mm-hmm.
gameplay wise, I think 15 and 7 might be my favorite.
But you only played the new 7, not the original 7.
I played the original 7 after I played the new 7, and because I was spoiled with the new 7, I
Mm-hmm.
couldn't get into the old 7
Yeah,
because it's
that's
it's
such a
more like
shame.
a
Such a shame.
because it's not open. It's not like how do you say it, like more open like the new Final Fantasy 7. It's more linear and you gotta you're
No,
basically
absolutely not. What? How far did you get in the original 7?
I played the whole game. No, but I'm trying to say is like
It's so far from the truth.
no, just hear what I'm gonna say. 7 remake is like it's 3D, and you get to explore a 3D world. Final Fantasy 7, the original, is not 3D; it's 2D, and you're basically walking, or 2.5D, whatever you want to call it.
If you, this is disconnect between quarter generations here. You called FF7 not 3D. That
Hold on,
is
let me look it up. Maybe I'm thinking
that
about
is so incorrect. Like, holy shit.
Hold on, I'm looking this up right now because I may be wrong. Let's see, hold on. FF7 original. Because I remember it was like... Oh, you're right, it is kind of... Well, it's 3D pixelated. Well, okay, how do I explain this? I guess it is the evolution of graphics. For some reason, when I'm picturing like this like polygonal shaped one, in my mind it registers like 2D. But
I mean, that's fine. That's fine that's how it registers in your head. But that's what makes this so hilarious. That because of our age difference, and it's not like we're that tremendously apart, but like just that, like what decade and a half worth of time, like you consider something that is truly 3D. Granted, it's not fantastic 3D graphics because, as you said, they're polygon. But it's still 3D.
Okay, so to give myself a point here, the reason why I thought it was 2D is because I was remembering the battle scenes. The battle scenes were 2D.
Absolutely not.
Yes, you basically were stationary and you switched between your characters. It wasn't like constant moving like it is now. You were basically set with your 3 characters, and you battled another character, and you're taking turns.
Okay, so now you're mixing up gameplay mechanics versus the actual.
Well, that's what I'm saying. That's what I remember. That's why I was thinking about the 2D part.
But all that is turn-based. That has nothing to do with graphics.
Yes, you're right.
That's the battle system.
But that's why I'm remembering 2D, because it was stationary with the turn-based.
It's stationary, but the game itself and even the fighting is still in 3D.
I agree with you, but that's why I'm remembering 2D is because it was stationary.
Fine.
I said it. I looked it up, and I admit that I was wrong. But
I just think like the way you started though, I was just like.
I played
something across the room.
I played Final Fantasy VII, the original. When did 7 Remake come out? 2019.
Man.
18.
No, didn't it come out actually during the pandemic?
I don't know. Well, basically, it was that long ago, so my memory on it was vague, and I didn't 100% it. So I just played through the main game, and because they also is bundled it up with the other one, I think it's connected with Crisis Core. Is that connected to Final Fantasy VII?
Yes. Crisis Core is the prequel.
Okay, because I also played that too.
And that's getting re-released on PS4, 5, and etc. 4 months. I can't wait.
See, that's one thing I hate about Final Fantasy VII is that they're so freaking different from each other that it's hard to remember.
And you're right, and that's my point though. Is every Final Fantasy that has a number after it, in my world, is its own world, its own universe. The only one that has a very expansive universe now, you could argue 15, well 14 because it's an MMO, 11 because it's an MMO, but 7 right now is the one. Well, it's obviously their moneymaker. That one has a vast, a large world because of all the different installments they have. So yeah.
So to answer my question, because you played more of this than I have, was Final Fantasy VII originally a 3-parter or just a 2-parter?
It was one game that spanned 3 discs.
So is Crisis Core considered that one of those discs?
No. Crisis Core came out way after 7 was released on the PSP.
So,
Crisis Core,
but it's still considered the same story, though, right?
It's in the same universe. Yes, it's. How do I explain this? It's a prequel to 7.
So it does connect. So it's like basically a continued story.
Yes, 100% connects. Where there's confusion. Now we're going to get into more spoilers. Where there's confusion is, since you played the remake first, and you have no knowledge of what happens in Crisis Core or the original game, your storyline knowledge is only from the remake, which is fine. But and the remake did still a fantastic job with retelling. And I will say that retelling the original story, there was they did, you know, they didn't. It wasn't a mirror storyline, right? And the ending in particular really opened it up to like, okay, are we getting a remake now, or
An alternate
are they
version.
getting, yeah, an alternate reality version? Which it looks like that is going to be the route they're going to take, which is fine. I'm still looking forward to it. We'll see what happens. Basically, that's all I'm going to say.
Yeah, because I knew that Final Fantasy was going to be a two-parter. The remake was going to be a two-parter originally, but now I
Well,
heard it's a three-parter.
yeah, that was confirmed.
And I know that Crisis Core is being worked into that two-parter, or the second part of it.
That remains to be seen. We have to play it. From originally, they said it was just going to be I guess like a true remake, where everything was gonna be the same. But then I think they recently just came out and said, "Well, we're gonna retract that, and there might be a little bit differences."
Well, there definitely is difference
which
with whatever that character's name is. The girl, Eris. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
because
No, exactly.
her story ending in the original was much different than the one in 7
we
remake.
still don't know what's gonna happen, and I don't think that. Well, I don't know. Maybe it will happen in number 2, in Rebirth, as it's being called or dubbed. But yeah, I mean, a lot of people are upset, and that they have every right to be. That's fine. I am going to enjoy it. That's all I'm going to say.
Well, obviously, like I said, my opinion probably doesn't hold weight because I played it much later in its life.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But I kind of like the connection that Aerith was able to remember the original events,
Mm-hmm.
but because she remembered the original events, she kind of altered the timeline a little bit.
The thing that's interesting with that statement is I don't think she has. And I could say it because I played the original. Not to say your statement doesn't have merit, but like through my playthrough of the original game, or I'm sorry, the remake, to what you just said, what you said makes sense. But truly, she hasn't done anything to alter it. The only way she could have altered it is by acting weird.
Well, also she's alive.
Well, she is alive in the original at this point of the game.
Oh, I thought she died.
Not yet.
Okay. Well, I'm just saying that when I played 7 remake, I just saw it was weird that they kind of gave you like these blended imagery.
Okay, so let me try to piece this up to you, because you had this question earlier and I didn't give you a half-assed answer, but you didn't like let me elaborate more on it. Final Fantasy VII is one game spanning 3 discs. Final Fantasy VII Remake, that whole game only comprised of the first disc of the original game. That's it.
Okay.
So what you've experienced was legit only the first disc of the original game. That's where we're at. Now, in the original game, where we're at is when the game it still is a linear game, but you then enter the open world, because that whole game you are playing through Midgar, which is what we've experienced. When they're leaving Midgar, that's exactly where disc 1 ends in the original, which is so apropos, and I fucking love it. But that's when you go into the open world. So at some point when you navigate through the open world, it becomes nonlinear, and that's where, at least for me, for my dollar, that's when you're allowed to just get in a spaceship and go wherever, or airship, my bad. When you're allowed to go in an airship and go wherever the fuck you want to go that you've explored, and to places you have not yet explored because you didn't have an airship, and then you start breeding chocobos, and you start getting different color chocobos, some that could go over land and mountains, and some could go over water, or the one that goes wherever the fuck you want to go. That is the Final Fantasy VII most people fucking love. However, where they're probably going to drop the ball on this is they're not going to give us that. I hope, and I would love for them to figure out a way to give us that, because that would feel like, it would probably feel like what's the damn name of like one of those offline MMOs where you have this big massive world but it's offline or single player.
I think they are going to do, and the only reason why I'm saying
I
this is,
hope they do.
and the only reason why I'm saying this is because one, it's been almost 3 years since the original one came out or remake came out, and because they're pushing so hard with the open world of 16, why when they introduced it, I think they're just going to keep that in. It's like, why do it for 16 and 14 and then have it in the original 7 but then take it away when it's like it wouldn't make sense for them to do that.
I mean, like I said, I hope so, but part of what you just said, I think they already came out and confirmed that part 2 is going to or the remake second installment is going to be all linear. So it's not going to be, it's going to play pretty much exactly like 1. So
hopefully they do that just to bait people.
But that could be okay, because once again, I played original. I keep saying that like, oh, my opinion is better, but like, playing the original, disc 1s and 2 are linear. That's fine. It wasn't really until disc 3 where it's like open world. So if they keep that pattern, then it wouldn't be till the third part comes out for the remake where they're like, you know what? Here you are. The problem I have, and they haven't answered this yet, okay? From the remake from 1 to 2, how are they going to handle the characters? And what I mean by that is like the leveling we already done. Are they going to reset them all back to level 1? Or are they going to introduce some sort of squish where it's like, hey, you got saved data for the original. We're going to put every character at level hypothetically 25. I don't know. I haven't seen anything come out about that. So
I have a feeling that they're just going to... I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I'm just saying, like, I just don't know what they're going to do. Like, I don't like the idea of having to go back to level 1, but at the same time, I kind of understand it's a necessary evil.
I think they're going to tack on levels, like, if it is a 3-part, and they are going to treat it like an MMOS game, I think it's going to be like, 50, what was the max in the first one, right?
Ooh, you know what? I don't know.
I'm just gonna say 50 because for some reason that's what I'm remembering.
Right, no, I think you're right. I just truly don't remember.
And let's just say the second part is either 60 to 75, let's just say it's 60 to 70, and then the third one's gonna be 80, and it maxes out there. Or they could pull a whole.
It would max out at 99, I think.
Yeah, because I was gonna say 99 because Kingdom Hearts does the same thing at 99. So they'll probably just do like 50, 70, and then 99 or whatever. It just seems like the most logical thing for them to do.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, I'm gonna eat it all up. That's all I could say.
So you ready to move on to the topics?
I'm ready when you are.
All right, let's go on to. Whoops, I have the wrong one on.
Oh, that's a great topic. Are we talking about underwear?
Yes. So, I guess you continue with this this fantasy topic. Is I feel like we're entering basically another dawn of a golden age of fantasy is coming out again, because we just had the Sandman on Netflix, which in my opinion is great. I had no idea what the story was even about until I watched the Netflix series. Then after I watched it, I got deeper into the story, and that's a good one you might actually like because it's about this character called Dream. He's a member of the Death family, and his whole realm is just a whole bunch of fantasy. But then you also have House of Dragons, which is the prequel to Game of Thrones. Lord of the Rings, which now the people that bought it, which I think is the Embracer Group, mentioned that they want to create more movies because they own the property now. So besides the show that we're going to get with Amazon, we're probably also going to get more movies.
But how is that a new fantasy? Those are intellectual properties that have already been existing.
I'm not... See, I think this is where maybe I've lost you. I'm not saying they all have to be new. I'm just saying we're getting peak fantasy again. Like, Lord of the Rings is returning with different stories. I'm not sure if you ever played Shadows of War, the games. But no. I love the version of, the elves crafting the rings of power, and then Sauron comes to attack him, and you finally see, like, Sauron's first attack on Middle-earth. I hope that's what we see with these new Lord of the Rings films.
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking forward to it. I don't subscribe to a lot of these different streams, and I may be forced to at some point. I'm not the biggest Lord of the Rings fanboy, and that's fine. But I do appreciate it, and I do love it still dearly. I'm just not like the super fan. I'm a fan. I appreciate it much like any of the other fantasies that exist out there, like the Star Wars and all that stuff. But yeah, I do want to watch this show, and I will watch. I am more inclined to watch anything that Lord of the Rings universe is going to be put out versus what Marvel and DC put out. I
Mm,
mean, once again, it's not that I have dismay for those universes. It's just it's not what I gravitate to, right?
mm.
I mean, they're still quality movies, quality television, but Lord of the Rings is my jam. I mean, I play World of Warcraft, so I mean,
The one thing I always saw was interesting about Lord of the Rings because originally I only watched the movies. I didn't read the books,
mhm.
and I still haven't read the books, but I've read enough snippets of it where I kind of get the gist of it. And people that aren't into Lord of the Rings, they always like, why are these? They're always wondering the connection between Frodo and Sam, and they don't realize it takes almost 7 to 14 years from them to go from the Shire
To
to
go burn a ring.
yeah,
Yeah, you're right. First and foremost, but those are movies, right? I mean
the pacing has to be faster.
and it's still a trilogy, right?
Uh huh.
So it's like it's crazy that statement is just like wow, like we have a trilogy, but yet there was just so much done. But you got to remember, a lot of that time and a lot of that fast forwarding
Was
is simply
walking.
just just simply just travel. So what are you gonna do? Have more instances like my precious, my precious.
No, I'm not complaining about like the pacing of the
Mhm.
movies. It's just people when I refer to somebody that doesn't like Lord of the Rings, they I don't want to say it because it's gonna sound negative, but they kept on saying that Frodo and Sam were you know basically a little
Blowing each other in the woods.
yeah. And then when they said that, I'm just like, I guess if you didn't do any research or read the books, you wouldn't have understood that they've spent a long time together.
Well, yeah, and not only just because of the traveling of the movies, but just where they lived, and the hobbits had that type of companionship,
Yes, and also their
right?
age too. Like hobbits don't age like us humans. They like
Correct.
they're like reverse dog years. 1 year for us, or sorry, 7 years for them is like 1 year for us.
Yeah, it's probably accurate. I just love that. Reverse dog years. It's a great comp.
And then same thing with like Gandalf. Like people, when you think of like the elders, like the whatever the high elf is, played by Hugo Weaving, and whatever the elf goddesses and Gandalf, they're like thousands of years old,
I don't think Gandalf is thousands of years old.
isn't he?
No, isn't he just a freaking human?
Well, if he's a human, he definitely his age doesn't represent him because I think he's like 300-400 years old.
I don't know. But then once again, I'm not the super fan, so I don't know. But yeah, we all know elves live freaking eons. But I didn't. I mean, Ganon. Sorry,
Okay,
Gandalf.
you're still in Zelda.
Still on Zelda. I want that damn live action Zelda. But Gandalf, he's a he's not an elf, so he has to be human, right? What else would he be?
From my remembrance, and this is just going from The Hobbit, the movie, not with Frodo, but Bilbo. Uh,
Yeah.
he and what's his name, the White Wizard Saruman or whatever his name is. They don't
Uh,
age like normal humans. They have like magical abilities that prolong their life.
maybe it's because they're wizards.
Could be, but I also think that they're part. See, probably gonna screw this up here because I think
Yeah.
they're also part of the elementals because there's also like a forest entity that's also like another 1,000 years old.
Maybe I just could just imagine hearing some actual super fans listening. It's like, oh, this you fucking idiots.
And I would love that. If I'm wrong, please correct me. Like I love Lord of the Rings. Most of my knowledge comes
Yeah,
from the movies, and then
yeah.
the sub knowledge comes from like YouTube or other people talking about it that read the books.
So thinking back, right? You brought up Bilbo, right? So in The Hobbit, when he's young, Gandalf is still old, right?
Yes.
So, hmm.
And then
Mhm.
Bilbo to Frodo is like 60 years difference.
Yeah, well, we're not going to talk about that, but yeah, I don't know, but he's not an elf.
But I think he has some kind of like elemental magical property that prolongs his life.
Yeah, probably
But so going back to original
the pit of Lazarus.
our original
Universes collide.
conversation is with all these like new series coming out like the Sandman. um God, there's also another series. Actually, there's three series: Shadows and Bones, which also is another good fantasy series. Wheels in Time, and obviously with the remaking or re-releasing of Lord of the Rings, their spin-off series, which I'm really looking forward to if they do like the Middle Earth or like the War series where you see the crafting of the rings of power.
I think that's supposed to happen in this show, isn't it?
I see. This is why I'm getting excited. I think that the show is going to be the prologue to the war with Sauron. Like I think the show's going to show us the crafting of the rings, the reintroduction of the characters we already know, like the elf, elder, and whatever the
Mm-hmm.
white elf is,
Mm-hmm.
and some new characters. And then we're going to see Sauron's first invasion, and I think with the spin off movies, we're going to see even more in depth of Sauron's invasion of Middle Earth.
Either way, I'm all in. So, like, like I said, that type of fantasy is my jam. So, yeah, I also too haven't read the books, so I'm not intuitive as to what to even expect. I mean, I know enough, but not like all the side stories and how it intertwines and all that stuff. So, like
And
even like I heard it was a at least I think I read it was a good game. Like even didn't like Gollum got his own game where he kind of had his backstory or something. I thought they were going to turn that into a TV show or movie, but I guess
honestly, I haven't
they
heard anything
pulled
about
that.
that, so I can't really
Yeah,
talk
no,
about it.
this was a long time ago. I think after the first trilogy was released, they thought about it. I mean, he kind of had a little bit of involvement in with the Bilbo, but like in the Hobbit, but it wasn't like his true origin story. So
But yeah, I just feel like right now we've had such a big break with fantasy that I feel
mm-hmm.
like we're finally getting a whole bunch of stuff being brought out, like with the new shows I mentioned, with the old ones coming back out. And I'm not sure if you want to count Avatar as a fantasy movie, but
Probably. I mean, it just really does depend. I mean, anything could be considered a fantasy. No, I shouldn't say anything, but a lot of different things could be considered fantasy
I think
universes as
Avatar would
well.
be considered maybe like more of a sci-fi fantasy.
Yeah, but that's still fantasy though,
Yeah,
for
I'm
sure.
just saying if people want to be extremely technical, it'd be more
Yeah,
sci-fi and then fantasy would be like a subsection.
still, still fantasy. I mean,
But
Star Wars to me is still considered fantasy. Star Trek is considered fantasy.
I agree. I consider them fantasy too, but I think they would probably most likely dub it as more sci-fi than
Stranger
anything.
Things, even though I've never seen 10 minutes of it, is considered a fantasy.
Yeah, okay, I think you're just gonna say that anything that's not realistic is fantasy.
Like graphics. No, I'm just playing.
No, but it's just like with all these great things coming out, I feel like we're entering another like early 2000s era where it's just nothing but like top fantasy movies and shows coming out, and I'm really looking forward to it.
Yeah, I mean, man, it's a disservice to myself, but um, like, there's a lot of stuff I know I need to watch, and because this has been going on for years, it's a golden age of just TV and movies and etc. So, um, there's just so much I would love to watch, but I feel like time time is my worst enemy. I think it's everybody's worst enemy, but there's some things I think I definitely will like. I just dropped Stranger Things. I know it's extremely popular right now and has been. So once all that's done and released, because they're going to have their final season, um, I'll probably binge it.
Sorry, I'm going over what you said. I don't. It doesn't look like you're muted on my thing. Let me hold on. Let me just do like a quick audio check. Please talk real
So
quick.
so chat told me that I'm muted on your stream. That's fine. You could probably pull mine then, I guess.
That's weird that you are muted and it says you're playing. I'm so confused. Why is this a thing?
I don't know. Rev is the one that dropped it on me, so I haven't looked, of course, but we can just keep going. Why do we have no point? We've already gone an hour and 15 minutes.
I'll just use yours. Yeah, it's fine. I think it's still registering in the recording. It's just for some reason it didn't.
Oh, just not amplifying through the stream. Gotcha.
Yeah.
Well, hopefully. What about last week's? I mean,
okay. He said there we go. Okay, I did change something to split the audio, and now it's all together in one. So I think we got it. But I appreciate that. Sorry, we usually don't look at chat because we want to keep the conversation focused. But thankfully, we have people to tell us if we have issues, and luckily I fixed it. But I think the recording is good. The stream was not, so I'll just have to re-upload it later on as a video format instead of live. So we'll go from there. But thank you so much. I appreciate you, both of you, letting me know. I forgot where we were at.
Fantasy, great times.
I guess you kind of wrap this up because we could talk multiple hours on all these different shows, but I'm not sure about you, but when Game of Thrones ended, you and I watched it together. Obviously, you probably won't be able to do that now because of things that are happening currently. But I would still like to talk about monkeypox. No, I would still like to talk about House of Dragons when it releases because supposedly the first season's 8 episodes.
I mean, I always want more than 8, but I mean that's kind of how most of Game of Thrones was, right? So that makes sense. Yeah, dude, I'm. That's easy free material for us on a weekly basis.
Yeah, I mean, like
for the next couple of months.
I'm a nerd for the game.
Not on stream right now, but I had someone that does visit my stream often actually pitched that. And they're like, "Hey, you should do a post show podcast." I'm like, we'll talk about it on our podcast, but I don't know if we're gonna do a post show. So
yeah,
maybe at the end of the season we'll do a post show for the whole season. I think that's something we could definitely
like a recap of the whole story so far.
Yeah, for sure. But oh man,
I'm looking forward to it. You're looking forward to it, and it comes out tomorrow, right? Is it tomorrow? No, Sunday.
Sunday.
It feels weird to me. For some reason, it feels like it needs to come out Saturday, but
it would be better if it was Saturday. That way, we wouldn't have that hangover going into Monday. Not like I'm gonna get trashed, but like seriously, like I love. I mean, this has really been consistent through a lot of things in life. But Sunday night, you get something good, whether it's a sporting event or something that's like, I gotta go to sleep and go to work tomorrow. Like, it sucks.
Yeah. So, yeah, and with House of Dragons, it definitely gets you hyped. And I know sometimes you, oh man, do you still have that bottle of White Walker?
I do.
I know you're probably not going to open it because it's a collector's item, but
no, it's been open.
It is.
Like it. Yeah, I thought you knew that.
No, I knew that we went together to buy. You bought the White Walker, and then you also bought the Oreos. I'm not sure if you ate the Oreos already.
Oreos are long gone.
It's funny. I was actually going to keep them and use them as like a collector's item, like I've done with Coca-Cola bottles. But as soon as I bought them that day, I came home and my brother ate all the Oreos.
Your brother? I don't. When you're saying that, I thought it was your mom did it and she didn't know any better, but it was your brother.
Oh, it was my brother. Yeah.
Oh well. It
was just funny. I came into his room and he's just like munching on some Oreos. And he's like, "Hey, you want some?" I'm like, "Those are supposed to be saved." And I'm like, "You know what? Fine. You enjoyed them. I don't care."
Yeah.
I wonder if they're gonna do
Pokemon ones.
Oh yeah. I wonder if I still need to go get some of those Pokemon cards from McDonald's.
Yeah, I got 3. I bought 3 Happy Meals earlier in the week, and I was gonna go back. I'm like, no, let's wait a little bit, maybe tomorrow.
You come back, you're like, I'm 40 Happy Meals in, and I still got all the cards.
I know, right? Shit.
But I guess to move on to the next one, I'm looking forward to House of Dragons. Can't wait to talk about it next week. Obviously, if you're watching this and you don't want to hear spoilers, you might have to skip a segment. But if you're in for the conversation, look forward to House of Dragons talk possibly the next 8 to 10 weeks.
We'll give a fair warning.
No warning, because straight to the spoilers.
Oh, what the?
All right, so I guess going on to we talked about games, we talked about fantasies. I've heard this whole thought process from people that don't play games. They think it's a waste of time. They think
Mm-hmm.
it's, there's no merit to it. There's no reason for it.
Mm-hmm.
But whenever they say that, I always tell them they're wrong because, one, we play World of Warcraft, and World of Warcraft teaches you so many skills like, one, economy building. If you play the auction house at all, you basically learn stocks at its finest because the value of items constantly goes up and down, trading goes up and down. Just you learn money value if you play the auction house, and then obviously there's other games that Nintendo tries to build with either physical activities or mental brain games, teaching you puzzles, and there's even games that help people that have learning disabilities how to read. And whenever I hear people say that games are pointless and they're a waste of time, I kind of get upset because I know I picked up skills from games. I know other people that picked up skills from games, and I've seen how helpful they can be. Obviously, they're probably associating with shooter games, which I totally understand. Not all games are a learning process or like a learning opportunity, but there's a lot of games that teach you so many skills like strategy, teamwork, communication, and I feel like it's that whole narrative that games are bad is still carrying on to this day, which is so weird to me.
There has always been a stigma, and I think there will continue to always be a stigma, but I think it's dissipated ever so slightly. But for those that aren't watching this and won't watch this because they'll listen to it, I was nodding my head with everything you said because everything what you said is basically what I'm going to repeat. I know you threw World of Warcraft in there, and that's fine. And what you said wasn't wrong, but that wasn't the approach I was going to take. But um, even first-person shooter games, let me start there and work backwards. Where those type of games do attribute a lot of negative attention, and I don't want to say rightfully so because that's I also feel like that's inaccurate, but we know why that type of genre does, right?
Mm.
But however, the good, like you said, we're talking about skills, right? Hand and eye coordination is huge, and a lot of people do not have it,
Yes.
and in some capacity you can't train for it either. So it is a skill, and not only is it a skill, there are jobs, real fucking good paying jobs out there in the real world that look for people that have that type of skill set. One in particular that, and someone probably could come and shit on me for saying this, and that's totally fine, but air traffic controllers, they really look for people that have video game experience because of skills like that. Um, moving forward, um, like I said, I'm a big player of RPGs, and I've been for the longest time. And I would use that as one of my selling points for my parents or grandparents to buy me games was I'm learning how to read. The level of vocabulary used in RPGs in particular is pretty vast. I have opened up a dictionary due to RPGs. What does this word mean? The character used it. I don't know what it means. I am going to look it up. I have done that countless of times. Now, am I an anomaly? I would probably suggest so.
I wouldn't even say that. I know a lot of
no,
people,
no.
myself included, that have done the same thing.
Okay, but are we anomalies? So no, but the moral of the story is I don't know. Like I don't know the percent of amount of people that have done what we have done, right? I would like to think it's high, right? I think it's a natural reaction that you see something that you don't know, so therefore you want to look up its definition to understand it better.
This is me
But
just speculating, but I'm going to say it's 50-50.
and that might be an accurate percentage. But the moral story is what I'm saying is going back to skills and things you learn from games. Reading is extremely fundamental, and RPGs, to its core, from NES days, is heavily involved with reading.
Oh, I mean any game. I
Otherwise,
mean any game you play is heavily involved with reading. Obviously, you got games that give you voice acting, but there's still subtitles you can read. There's still options you have to read to choose.
I mean, you could argue that even going back to first-person shooters because you got to read what type of gun you're having. But
And the
that's
stats, you have to do math with those stats.
yeah, but that's not what you're not wrong. But that's not what I was really shooting for. And going back to and then moving forward, puzzles, right? Games with puzzles. I mean, even just puzzle games like your Tetris, your Dr. Mario, the OGs of that type of realm, they really work your brain, and also to your reflex, your quick reflexes of having
Quick problem
to turn
solving.
and problem solving, all that stuff. Like it's huge, and those are anytime you work your brain is just so fundamental. Like we don't do it because of cell phones so often. Like I don't know if you've ever done this, and now I'm really say this like I'm freaking 7 years old, but showing my age here. I loved doing crossword puzzles. I love doing word search books. I
Sudoku and
don't.
all that stuff.
I never really got into Goku, but word
Go.
search.
Did you say Goku?
I said Goku. Goku, or Sudoku. But anyways, I never I used to do those things, right?
Mm.
Um, so yeah, there is an array of skill sets from gaming. Now, do you get it from every game? No, and that's understandable. But I can easily say every game has some element of problem solving and puzzles in it.
Mm.
Even the first person shooters, right? I mean, you are problem solving against an opponent.
Yep, and
You are
depending
now a
if you do it
team,
with a team, you have to communicate too.
not only a team, but even if you're playing one on one, you were looking for tendencies, you're looking for patterns, reflexes, all those type of things. As I'm sitting here thinking about how you apply that to the real world, you could apply a lot of these things in a negative fashion, but like,
I
as we all know, but like,
mean,
needless to
they could relate to
say,
like sports, like football, baseball, like pitching
needless to
patterns.
say, those skill sets are there though, and they are definitely can be acquired through gaming.
And while you were saying, you also mentioned how there people have actually gotten jobs because certain companies are looking for people with these skills.
Mhm.
It's funny that you say that because I totally forgot about that. But there's actually been games like Kerbal Space Program where people have to basically learn um, rocket science, aerospace, engineering and all that stuff, and build real rocket ships that can go into outer space. And NASA's picked some of those people up that have really worked hard at building space stuff. Then you've also had people turn to professional race car drivers. Maybe their careers were really short, but Gran Turismo did a simulation tournament where they had these wheels in your house. They would practice, and eventually, people that were skilled enough went to an actual driving course, and they drove real cars, and one of them even became pro.
Yeah, no, Gran Turismo was another very that was a fantastic example because that's all fact. I mean, it's called a driving simulator for a reason.
And then like you're saying with the flight control, they even had people learning learning how to fly with Flight Simulator, where you're actually learning how to either control airplanes, 747, 737s, helicopters, whatever, with these flight simulators because they're so realistic with controls, depending on what setup you have, where you can feel like turbulence, you can feel resistance, and all that stuff. So, like your point with simulation games is another fantastic example of simulation games have become so advanced that they're actually there's jobs that are basically saying do this first and then we'll talk with you because it
Mm-hmm.
teaches you so many like essential skills for whatever position you're going for.
Mm-hmm. 100%. And even just the skill set things. I mean, and I could speak this for even for myself. Video games in its entire capacity is also very therapeutic, and there is a large amount of people that would consider it an antidepressant,
Yep.
and I
There's,
agree with that.
there's some people that use it as a relaxation source, but there's also some people that use it as a stress source.
Oh,
Like I
100%.
think we've seen those people that get so angry when they play
Oh yeah.
video games.
Hmm.
So it
I
could
mean,
go either way.
I've had my frustrations, no doubt. I mean,
I think that's
once again,
everybody.
every game could have a level of frustration. I mean, even going back to puzzles, right? Like Zelda is a very a prime example of this. Like I've played almost every Zelda game. I've encountered a particular point because once again, generally when I play something new, I'll binge the shit out of it, right? So going back to skills and learning stuff, like your brain could also get fried. So there has been countless of times where I'll reach a point where I'm at a puzzle, and it's a wall. Like, I can't progress through this game any further unless I get this puzzle done. And I'm sitting there, I'm looking at it, I'm thinking, I'm trying every which way to try to solve this, and I'm just like, nope, I reached my max capacity for today. Save, turn off, come back next morning, like instantaneously I figured it out. I'm like, I just needed to rest.
Yeah.
So but that's the thing, like the puzzles will do that. That's once again going back to like word searches. Same thing, I'll be, crossing off the list of words, like I found all these and I'm like staring at it for like 10 minutes, like I can't fucking find this word. Close the book, put it down, wait about an hour or two later, and then open it back up, caught that word right away. I mean, the skills are there. Video games.
So it teaches you patience.
And there you go. It teaches you patience, or even just teaches you that, hey, I have to relax. I have to put this down. I have to move away from it. And then the determination will kick back in, and you'll get in there. But yeah, totally, 100%, 200%. There is skills involved and learning skills involved with video games.
Do you think we'll ever get like? To me, in my head, it still makes me scratch my head a little bit when people say that video games are pointless. Like I said, obviously not every game is like that. But with this day and age, where almost everybody's playing games, either on consoles, mobile, whatever, there's pretty much the mass majority of people are playing games. And the fact that there's still people that say that it's so bad for you, it just like, I wonder if we'll ever get to the point where it's like they'll realize that it's just another tool you can utilize to learn.
Once again, it's a stigmatism, right? And I think they say it's so bad for you because I think also there's still that, dare I say, addiction factor.
Oh, that's with anything.
For anything, yeah, but that's for anything. But like, yeah, I mean, that's another thing that also, as they say, grinds my gears. But like, and I always throw that back. Like, what's the difference between sitting down and binging a TV show for 8 hours, and then binging the next TV show for 8 hours, and then the next TV show for 8 hours, and then me putting 30 hours into one game?
And you're using your brain.
Exactly, and that's my additional thing is when you're watching a TV show or movie, and once again, I know there's very good quality TV shows and things. You're not using. I mean, now some shows may force you to think a little bit.
Or then you got anomalies like us that actually dissect stuff.
Yeah, that's true, but they absolutely do not make you think like a video game does.
Mm.
That is undisputable. And the ones that will turn their head and not even listen to you, well, that's because they didn't experience it.
Another one of my favorite things that people that say video games are bad, they also say that if you play video games, you're antisocial. I'm like, people can be antisocial at whatever they do, but I always use like Pokemon Go as like the best example. Is like it's a game that makes you go out in the real world and talk to people. Obviously, things have changed because of COVID, and it's not as much socializing as it used to be. But you and I have both met so many people from Pokemon Go alone that it's like, the fact that they say, video games is an antisocial thing. And I'm like, nah, a lot of times you can meet them in person, like Pokemon Go, or you talk to them online. You're still socializing regardless. And most games are social, where you have to talk to people.
Exactly. I think, and that's why I loved Pokemon Go so much. And unfortunately, it's and this from a week ago. It's kind of gone polar oppo, and it is what it is. I think we saw that coming. Compliments of COVID and such. COVID really did ruin that game for me. But anyway, yeah, that was fantastic. And what made that game so much better, and I don't mean to say this in a negative fashion, but I encountered so many great people that I was able to notice that they had some sort of social anxiety or had trouble with communications and etc. But that game.
Or you got people like me that just don't like people.
No, and that's fine too. That's fine too. There are many more people like you. But the moral of the story is what made them come out and come together.
A common interest, which is Pokemon Go.
Exactly, and that was the absolute beauty of that game for that time.
Hmm.
I wish it still was like that. I mean,
Well,
I'm sure there are some
have you
communities.
noticed it's coming back though? Because this last community day, I've noticed more people out than before. I I've seen people. I have. Well, I'm not gonna say any names.
Maybe that's about it.
I seen.
Dude, it was pretty dry out there.
Well, I'm not sure if you stayed by where we
I
our normal
did.
hunting ground, but
I saw you. I was 2 feet from you with
I know,
COVID.
I know, but I was driving around because I wanted to
By
stay
the
away
way,
from
he had
people.
COVID, not me.
Yeah, I had COVID. He stayed
He
away,
broke the rules, not me.
but I was in my car alone. Okay, so I've still following the rules. But when I was driving around, I noticed a lot of people I haven't seen in a while.
You're not wrong, but it doesn't compare to pre-COVID.
Oh yeah, obviously you're right, but I'm saying
And I
that more
hope it
people have come out.
returns. I hope it returns, but I just once again, maybe certain communities it's still flourishing and it's fantastic, but unfortunately our community took a massive hit, and I don't think it's going to return that way, in my opinion.
I think it is because, like I'm saying, even though it wasn't a massive
I hope so.
increase,
I hope so.
I've seen more people out this last community day than I've seen in the last 7 community days.
Can I hijack the show really quick?
Yeah, go
Breaking news.
You're
Selfish
pregnant.
breaking news. I no, I'm not pregnant. So I registered to hopefully become a contestant on the first ever World of Warcraft variety show, and I want to say to everyone that I have been chosen.
Yeah, but that's awesome. So if you're willing to elaborate more on this, I've never heard of this. I've seen Mythic Plus pushes and all that stuff.
Breaking news!
Is this like a YouTube series or is it actually from Blizzard itself?
It's from Blizzard itself, and I need to read my email and such, which I'll do still after the stream. But basically, it's so it's called a variety show,
Uh-huh.
and honestly, they haven't released all the deets, but the idea or the premises is it's going to be a show that has contests.
Mm-hmm.
And the 3 main contests that are going to be done are, I think they're going to have a leveling contest. So you're going to, which I hate, but they're going to have a leveling contest. How that's going to work, I don't know. They're going to have a what's it called? A scavenger hunt contest, which is going to be groups of, I think 4. I don't know why they didn't choose 5, a whole team of 5, but they're going to be different teams, and they're going to say, I don't know, go find this, like get this drop from a mob in this zone. I don't know what they're gonna do.
Oh, so it's all in-game stuff. There's not like
all in game.
Okay.
It's all in game stuff. So that's contest 2, and then contest 3 is just a simple foot race through Azeroth. So I put my hat in for the foot race and the scavenger hunt, I think.
Okay.
So I don't know what I was selected for. I have to read my stuff. But,
you're selected for all of it.
yeah, I'm ecstatic at this point. This is like freaking awesome. And I get to stream it.
Okay.
So this is dude. This is nice. This is cool.
Well, obviously you said you're gonna stream it, which
Yes.
for people that are listening that aren't seeing social media right now, you can follow the Real Shiesty, which I guess that's his name. The Real Shiesty all together. You can check the descriptions below. There'll be a link to his channel. But when is this gonna happen? What date?
I believe it's next Friday. Oh my god, I feel like I'm someone prepared for something I signed up for. Yeah, I believe it's next Friday. Hold on. And it's going to be broadcasted on Twitch, on the official World of Warcraft Twitch channel, and I guess all the contestants like myself.
Okay.
They're like either way, I'm just ecstatic that I've been selected, no doubt. But
that's awesome, man.
But I mean, there could possibly be thousands of contestants, which is totally fine. Because
it's still cool that you're associated with an official contest from Blizzard, and from my understanding, they haven't done many of these. They've done the PvP arena, Mythic Plus pushes, but those are exclusive to high skill players. This is one of the first of its kind that you're a part of, and you're part of the history of it.
Yes, exactly. It is the first, and I'm hoping it's successful because and that way there'll be more of them. But I will get to partake in the first and possibly only. No, hopefully not.
But, first and last.
Yeah, first and last.
So You said this was this next Friday, right? Is it?
I tried to pull it up on my phone and I didn't find it quickly. I didn't want to. I should divert attention, but I'll follow up with that.
Okay. So I guess this would be the perfect time to plug that, make sure to follow myself and the Real Shiesty on social media so you can keep updated. Potentially next week, depending on the time, we may have to either make the Out of Hand episode 5 early or later, depending on whatever his contest is. But make sure you watch the Real Shiesty on Twitch whenever this contest happens.
Yes, please and thank you. Oh, it's going to be on this coming Wednesday.
Oh, Wednesday. Okay, so forget everything I just said.
Forget everything. Don't watch him. No, I just don't have the exact time though. But it is Wednesday.
Okay.
So yeah.
If you know the time, text me because I'll watch. I'll watch both you and World of Warcraft, and I'll be making fun of you in your chat.
100%. Thank you. But anyway, sorry to hijack the show. I just thought that was awesome news. So.
Hey, look at that gaming! That it's perfect addition to gaming teacher skills because you enter the competition, and hopefully your skills pay off. And I don't know if there's like a prize if you win anything, but maybe you'll become the next Asmongold.
Oh man!
I know your issue with it. That's why I said it.
Let's leave it as that. No, I have respect for the guy.
That's what you say on stream. But I guess we can move on to the next thing. Whoops, I totally just switched things up. I was pressing buttons. Okay, I got it fixed. But I guess to go with this,
Did you end your stream on accident?
No. I was clicking other things. But okay. I guess this is another perfect segue into it because 1, you're joining this contest. 2, it's going to help you hopefully get more reach out there.
Hopefully. I got to prepare for this now.
And, people are searching it. So going into the next topic is search algorithms and people basically owning certain search algorithms.
So when you proposed this topic, I was kind of lost. I don't know what this is about. Immediately I started kind of thinking of like how we're kind of discussing NFTs last week, and I'm like, what is this? Like, please educate me.
So since we started doing the podcast, I've been trying to do a lot of learning of how to get our reach out there further, with posting clips, advertising, and all that stuff. And since I've been studying a lot more of these ways to reach new people, I've noticed that there's people out there that own certain platforms. Like, for example, anytime I go to Instagram or TikTok, I see this guy called Andrew Tate. And even though I don't follow him, I don't, his content is his content. I'm not going to say anything more about that. But he always pops up in my feed, even though I've never liked any of his videos. I never liked any videos related to him. But he's always in my feed. And then same thing with, like, Twitch. Twitch and Instagram, there's a guy named Hassan Piker. And he's a left-wing political activist that's also a streamer on Twitch. And he pops up on my feed, and I don't follow him either. But for some reason, there's these set few people that always seem to pop up my feed regardless of what I'm on, either YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, Twitch, whatever. And I want to know how they learned how to capitalize the algorithm where they're always being pushed into feeds. And I know I'm not the only one because for Andrew Tate that I mentioned earlier, he was on everyone's feed, and that's how he blew up so big.
Okay, so you want to know how they're doing it, not necessarily how you're being connected to them popping up, correct?
It's kind of both. So,
because the connection aspect, I mean, you probably could sit there and try to connect the dots to figure it out, almost like that Charlie Day meme with all the different graphs and he's looking at the board. I mean, the way, like Twitter, for example, and even Facebook, I mean, there'll be certain things where it's like, oh, because you know this person, you may also like this. So they pretty much force down your throat what other people's likes are.
Yeah, obviously.
There, but that's what they're doing.
I get that. They're pushing content that's related to things you like. But that's the thing, though, is that a lot
not even things you like. Things the people you like.
Twitter was like the biggest example of that, but you know what, you're not wrong, and I'm not disagreeing with you. It's just weird that it's on every single platform.
It's on every single platform because to your point, it's an algorithm, right? It's just the way that's how the outreach works. This may not be an apples to apples comparison, but it's just like cookies, right? The advertisements that are shoved down your throat is basically what you just looked at.
Well, yeah, I get that, but what I'm saying is, I want to know. See, I know how Hassan Piker got his reach out there because he was a part of this news network called the Young Turks. They were there's their political program. Then he transitioned to a Twitch streamer because of his news articles and politics being such a hot topic for everything right now. It's always being pushed. That's why he's on the search algorithm. But people like Andrew Tate, there's more people that I can't name because I took screenshots and didn't write them down. But they're not necessarily political. They're just random people talking or doing weird trends that somehow always get pushed onto feeds, even if no one likes them or cares about them. And I just want, I'm impressed when certain people have found like the golden solution to just be advertising everything.
Gotcha. I mean, to that capacity, I mean, I don't obviously I don't know the answer, but it makes me wonder. Like the people that become successful in all these different ways and realms. I mean, I still think there's an element of luck involved. Don't get me wrong, but there is some sort of marketing majesticness that they just seem to figure out, right? We talked about, puzzles. That really is a puzzle.
The algorithm is definitely a puzzle, and it always changes too. Because since I've been doing research, like right now, the new thing to push you out there is clips. Instagram, TikTok, YouTube likes to promote shorts, reels, and whatever the clips are, and that's what people get their outreach on. Obviously, maybe in a year time, they'll probably change again. Most likely, it'll change sooner than that because it's always updating itself. But it's just like the fact that they're constantly relevant, constantly in feeds. In a way, I almost admire that in a weird way because I'm like, I want to know what they're doing. I need to know their secrets.
Well, like I think part of that algorithm though is also they'll never suffer for this, but I feel like all the good ones that are making money or whatever popular ones are doing this, but I think it's also a lot of false advertisement involved.
And also drama, because it seems like a lot of the same. All press is good press, because a lot of these people that I've named usually have a lot of controversy related to them.
100%. But like just going back to the simplicities of like Twitch and YouTube with all the different tags, like they show up everywhere because they are tagging that shit to hell, right? That's like us tagging automatic. I mean, maybe you're doing this already, and that's fine, but it's like tagging Out of Mana podcast with Out of Mana podcast, Out of Mana podcast. Like that's what they're doing. They probably have bots that have this all pre-coded and macro that everything they push they just copy paste and it's like fucking massive. Like I don't know if there's caps on this stuff. I really don't. I think YouTube does, but then if you become more popular, I'm pretty sure it gets expanded. So it's like the rich getting richer, right? It's like, I mean, I don't know.
So I think another part of where this stems from is, like obviously tags and all that stuff. Like, whenever I try to learn how to advertise and promote us, because the Out of Mana podcast hasn't really grown that much, obviously I just put the Out of Mana podcast, that's it, and I just usually type in the topics we talk about and things that are related to those topics, and that seems to push more. But I think it also comes down to depending on like word of mouth, because obviously word of 100%. Mouth has always been the best form of advertisement, and people that talk about you, eventually more people will go to you, and I think that's somehow what they mastered is with these controversies, people talking about them, people mentioning them, like for example us now talking about them, they're getting more views put towards them. And 100%. I want to I know it's gonna sound very scummy and very weird, but I almost want to learn that art, like in a way where it's not like drama, because I'm almost against drama just for the sake of drama, but I do want to learn how to master their marketing skills in a positive way for people?
Well, I think one also element of that is have not to say we don't have no shame, but but truly have absolutely no shame, and you just shove it down anyone and everyone's throat, right? That's like step one, right? And then and then I think another big thing, and this probably varies from person to person, but I think having a strong, just small network within each other or that person to kind of get you off that ground level and up to blossom, right? Like you said, word of mouth, that is huge. That is huge even in today's world. So like, and this may come off extremely negative for maybe both of us, but it's like even within our small networks, if we don't have people that also want to see us succeed to try to help us succeed and use that word of mouth, then that's also hindering us too. The more people within, I feel like in your small network that will go out there and also have no shame and throw you out there and just say like if you throw it to 10 random people, hopefully at least one of those 10 is bound to at least check you out for even a brief period of time. And then the more you keep doing that, that's how you're going to get your traffic. And then like sometimes even wondering, this is even myself sometimes, because I could get lazy and I know that, but then there's also an element, are you too scared to succeed?
It's funny that you mentioned that because that was my problem for a while.
I think that happens to also like a lot of streamers as well. Like they get popular, they love being popular for a certain amount of time, and then they're like, I'm done, which is fine. That's totally cool. Some take vacations and they come back because maybe they need more money. That's also fine. I mean, it just depends. What kind of empire do you want to build?
Right? And it's funny that you say that. Are you scared to succeed? Because, you know, there was a long time where I just streamed and played games because that's just what I like to do. I didn't promote. I didn't do any of that stuff because, you know, I just wanted it to be, you know, focused around gaming. But when I, you know, the more I did it and the more I realized you need to grow, you have to be somewhat narcissistic to do this because you have to be all about yourself. You have to promote yourself. You have to push yourself out there and talk to, you know, about yourself all the time. And I used to be so against 100%. That, but then I realized that you need that to grow. And, you know, with networking, you know, obviously you got to find other people that are trying to benefit for themselves. But if you can give them something of worth, they'll give you something back. It's like basically equal trade. I'll give you this if you give me that. And that's how you grow with networking. And I think right now, because of me really trying to give this a solid shot, because I'm just more curious about it, it's just one of those things I recently had to get over. Like I said, I've been posting more clips. I never did that. I've been posting a lot of tags out there. Even if it's something I'm not particularly proud of, I still put it out there because even if it's average or below average, it still gets views, and any views is good views.
100%. And that's why I kept on the no shame thing. And then you know, you say narcissistic. I mean, that it is what it is. It's like that is a common trait, and it comes off as a negative fashion, and sometimes it is.
But, yeah, we've seen that.
But it can also be a positive trait. If it's like, you know, what's the word? Like great power comes great responsibility. Yeah. That's kind of what narcissism is. It can be for. So like, so yeah. I mean, all those are tangible things, and however. And maybe I am a fool for saying this or fool for believing this, but I still think you could truly succeed without having to do that.
You can succeed, but those are usually mavericks, and they're very rare.
But I think, well, I think in order to succeed, it really just really truly depends on that teamwork aspect and that you know, having a good solid system and a good support group and that's why like I said it a lot to you, maybe not on the podcast, but like, you know, hey, you want to do this, let's do it. You're Batman, I'm Robin. Like, no, I don't want to be Batman. You know, we're both Batman. I'm like, no, you can't do that. But like, and that's what I'm getting. Like you look at, this ain't once again another one of those apple comparisons, but you look at like and I use this comparison a lot with podcasting and doing this video cast with it, like TV talk shows. Like you look at Conan O'Brien, he has Andy Richter, and even Jimmy Kimmel, like he has the side guy. I can't think of his name, Guillermo, I think. I mean, there is a model to these things, and why models are successful because they do work.
Yeah.
But like it's just really defining yourself and molding it, and then figuring out what is it that you exactly want.
It's great that you actually mentioned that it can be a bad thing. I think that I've always associated with bad, but you're right. It can be done for a good reason, and like you said, how I always wanted us to both be Batman because I've dealt with people in the past that are really selfish and they try to gain for themselves, and like once the getting is good, they get out and cut you out. I don't want to be known as that.
No, and I think that's what makes I think that's why we're friends. If I'm being honest here, I have that same mental approach, and even going back, and I don't mean this now to be a selfish plug, but even like even the sketch work that I've done in the past, like I've done it with my friends, because as much as I wouldn't mind being successful by myself, I love and prefer to have success in a group oriented way. Like I don't like being, I mean, I could have the spotlight on me, right? Like technically kind of have the spotlight on me now a little bit. And I'll probably have the spotlight on me on Wednesday when I do my little stream because I'm going to be contestant on something. But more of the story is like I thoroughly enjoy success when it's group success or with my friends and all that stuff. I just really do. And God forbid if I'm ever that one that gets tossed to the side and seen someone else rise to become a millionaire, well, that's on me. But we're all wired differently in the world, right? That's why not everybody is successful to begin with. But yeah, I mean that's my approach. It's not always negative.
And to kind of add on to your point is that with group success, one of the huge benefits of group success is that if you truly help each other out, let's say for example I have a great day and I promote you, and you start growing, and then one day I slip up and I'm having slow days, your success growth that I helped you with or you helped yourself with can eventually re-help me if I'm having a bad day or if you're having a bad day. You kind of basically can ping pong off each other to keep yourself growing, and also with more people you're connected with gives you more eyes that normally weren't watching you to watch you.
And take that narrative for for a second here. Like, can you imagine that? Like the more growth that could happen with group success rather than solo success
It's much higher than solo.
100%. So why not try to do it in a group oriented way? Like we succeed together, we fail together. It's just yeah.
Yeah, because awesome. That's always been my mindset is that I've dealt with very selfish people, and I don't want to be like for example, you and I are putting in the same work. If somehow
that's
okay, fine, you do more.
No, you are doing more, my friend.
But like, let's say for example, I succeed and I grow, with all these clips. Like, let's say eventually one clip just hits it big. Anything I get, I will automatically direct straight to you as well, because it's just we're both putting in the effort, and it feels wrong to have one person gain credit while you just completely sideline somebody else. Like, I feel like those people, if anybody, like people that do that, should immediately get banned from any type of promoting and just be isolated to themselves.
Well, the unfortunate thing is that happens all too often in the world, even and especially like in the corporate world. Like, people that get that high in life generally have to, as they say, step on some people's necks throughout the course of their career and stuff like that. So it's just I don't think and believe it has to be a necessary evil, but
sometimes it's required.
I do know. No, I don't want to say that. I want to say it definitely is. It's an evil that exists in the world. But I don't think it has to be a necessity.
And the only reason why I say sometimes it's required is because I've also been on a relationship with someone where I tried to work with them, but because their traits were not the best, I had to cut them off.
and I was actually going to kind of just make that point, um, that like you don't want to misconstrue that to like taking over and then running solo. But there may come a time in partnerships or group oriented things, like, not that you're going to cut off the weakest link, but like
Oh no.
Everybody has strengths and weaknesses and skill sets, right? So like if you know as a group, like, man, like we have a certain amount of success, right? Like, let's say hypothetically you become partners, right? I mean, like, let's talk about Twitch, for example. You become partners in Twitch. So it's like, man, we got something good running, but we can't get over this hump because so and so doesn't want to do this.
Mm.
They're totally capable of doing it, but they don't want to, which could be fine. But it's like, but if you do, this is the next pinnacle that we could reach. That's kind of different, because like if you now have someone that is that motivated, and then you're kind of holding them back, that's kind of really different. But if you're cutting them off because there's like additional success to gain because like it's more money or something, because like, hey, I'm gonna get a bigger check, that's totally different. Like that's I don't subscribe to that theory. But like, exactly what you said, I mean, that could be plausible.
Yeah, because like there's only one time where I had to cut someone off because, one, they want to do it, but lazy work on their part, they would never show up and all that stuff. But two, they always wanted to create drama for the sake of drama. They didn't care about what they're talking about. They just wanted to fight.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, I don't want to be associated with that. So I was like, obviously I talked to them in private, because I feel like that's the way to do it. If you have a problem with somebody, you talk to them directly. You confront them, and then obviously if you can't work out your differences, then you say, you know what, it's been a good run. Let's walk different paths right now. And
100%.
I don't know. I guess I guess we kind of got off the search algorithm, but because recently, starting the podcast, I've really been trying to like figure out so many ways to push us out there. And right now my mind is just like running wild, because I see a lot of selfish people. I've seen a lot of mavericks out there that are just so talented where they deserve their success, and then there's people out there that are just smart, that learned how to capitalize on a search algorithm. And I think I'm trying to like learn two of those three things so it can help us grow. And it's very difficult. So anybody that does advertising, social media, video making, it whatever, it's a lot more difficult than people realize, because of how much
100%.
work and effort goes into it, and how much research you always have to do.
Yeah, I mean, if you're gonna, not saying that that's doing it the right way, but it can be, for sure. If you're really looking at it through a lens of it being work, it truly is work, right? But like I ain't gonna get off on my approach, but like,
do it, get off on it.
No, but like I still think, like, not that it's our problem, but you're on the right track. And when you say this, but like, I also feel like there still is a grassroots approach to this, where yes, the world of algorithms exists, but there's a real world algorithm, and that's really the simplicity of a grassroots system, the word of mouth, which, once again, not throwing it in a negative way, but like, which should stem from your real life network of friends. And unfortunately, and I'll admit this too, if you don't have a lot of them,
or you have people that you're friends for certain reasons, but don't really.
Then you're at a disadvantage.
Yeah.
So, but like, once again, that fear of success aspect comes in, because like, here's another prime example: is we have the benefit of a very nice Discord community for Pokemon Go,
but we never utilize them, though.
I know, and that's what I'm saying, right? And why is that? Because we don't have that narcissistic aspect of us. Like, I did it maybe once or twice for my thing once upon a time ago, but like, let's be honest, if we really wanted to, we could keep throwing in there every damn time.
Yeah.
But we don't, because that is a community for that, and we respect that.
But after this, you see me post nothing but all of our videos on there.
Out of nowhere. But that's the point I'm getting at. Like, there's people, and I don't know if the successful people did this, but maybe they've done that. They've paraded in freaking random Discord groups and posted a shit of it, moved to the next Discord group, posted a shit. Now they probably get banned for it, but that's the risk they take, because out of that ban, there might have been a Discord with like 1,000 people. There might have been even just 5 people out of 1,000 that saw that spam, somehow gravitated towards it and checked it out, and it keeps multiplying. And then, let me finish, damn it. No. But then, all it takes is one of them to be a crazy super fan.
Yeah.
And they're going to do that for you.
So, I know you don't really use Twitch as much and you don't promote as much, because you and I have taken, just the natural approach.
I use Twitch probably more than you. Now, do I promote my Twitch?
Well,
no.
Promoting, but there's always been this rule where people don't like self-promotion. Like, they go into multiple Discords, multiple things, and just spam their thing. You might get one person out of every 1,000 people, but I think the best way to do is, because I've seen people self-promote successfully, and that's usually because they talk to people, like, for example, our Discord that we have that has hundreds of people in there. If we did it in a way where we just kind of, like, naturally introduce it and not just post and that's it, I think we'll probably get more people that way. Like, there's ways to promote and be good about it than just spam.
But that's also catering to your audience, right? So to your point, that strategic plan would work because that's more of a community atmosphere. The other thing is just simple spam.
Spam I've always been against. But
what I'm saying is some people probably do that. And
100%.
And they probably received success by doing it.
I've never seen anybody get success by spamming.
I find it hard to believe.
I'm a part of multiple Discords, and I see spam all the freaking time in a lot of Discords.
But that's you, though.
And they have 0 to 1 viewer. And I'm like, they spam in every single Discord. I get multiple pop-ups, and I'm like, they're like, they might, like I said, they might get 1 in 1,000. But I've seen people.
But those are still isolated examples, in my opinion. I mean, you're talking about a minute 100th of 1,000% of amount of content that's crossed your ways versus the entire world.
I think the majority doesn't like spam promotion. I think they like to have network promotion or related content promotion. Like, for example, our Pokemon Go Discord, even though we've never promoted in it, we do talk about Pokemon a lot. And I feel like if we do somehow introduce it into that Discord with the talk of Pokemon, some people might catch on for Pokemon and some people might stay for the extra stuff we're talking about. I feel like that's a better source of promotion than just post link spam, that's it, you're done. Because I don't think we'll get anybody that way. I think we'll probably get blocked by a lot of people doing that.
Yeah, I'm not disagreeing with you. I concur that that's a better way to promote. I'm just also saying that there's people that do it the other way. And I think our disagreement lies, you're just flat out saying it doesn't work, but I feel like in some capacity,
the percentage is much lower of success than the other way.
But the people that are successful in this world are probably that small percent that it has worked for. I'm not saying that's the only way. I'm just saying that, once again, like, whether or not they've done it themselves or they have people that do it on their behalf without them even asking, just because they are super fans, my statement is it's being done out there.
Oh, it's definitely being done. I'm just saying that the level of success is very capped. Because, like, a lot of the big people, their version of promotion is networking. Like, they'll get other people of their caliber or size, and they'll work with them, and then also get their audience introduced to them. Like I said, I've been with Twitch for so long, and I've seen... I see a random light outside. I've seen a lot of people do just nonstop spam promotion, Discords, Twitter, and all that stuff. And I may have only seen, out of like the thousands, I may have only seen 3 that have gone successful. And it's semi-successful, like 25 people. Yeah. But I'm like, obviously, any promotion is, I guess, good promotion. I think you would also agree with this too, is that we also have somewhat standards on how we promote.
Yeah. Damn those standards. Damn those morals. Why do I have them?
But I guess to kind of wrap this up, because, like, I'm still learning. Obviously, in the future, we would love to get guests on here. So networking is going to be the next part of my learning process of promotion. So I'm probably going to watch people's streams, obviously talk to you, and watch them for a while, communicate with them, build a relationship, and then potentially have them come on here. But yeah, this whole learning algorithms, seeing people that have somehow magically owned algorithms has just been such a fascination for me, because it's not easy. As much as people are like, oh yeah, like Andrew Tate, he's just a bad guy, blah blah blah. I'm like, he has people talking about him. That's a skill.
Yeah, no, I
like
mean,
he might not be the best guy, but he figured out how to capitalize you so you could talk about him.
I mean, in 2 weeks, I could try to get Jeremy Piven on our podcast, because we're practically best buddies, because he liked one of my tweets the other day.
I commented on a post and I got a thumbs up from random guy, but it's still close enough. I'm in the friend group.
Yeah, I'll try to get him on. I'm sure yours is. But that was a true story, by the way.
No idea who that is. So if you want to elaborate, go ahead.
You don't know who Jeremy Piven is?
I meant maybe. I don't know.
You've seen Entourage?
Yes. Do I remember?
Gold?
I don't remember most of Entourage.
Oh man, such a shame. Oh well, we'll leave it as that.
If you were talking about Silicon Valley, I could talk more about those people, but Entourage was just one of those shows I watched on HBO, thought it was funny, moved on. Kind of like The Office.
That's fine. I'm not sad or anything.
I know. I'm just saying, I won't remember him. That's really cool that he liked one of your stuff. It's just I in my mind I can't picture who he is.
That's fine. I'm trying to think of what else I could tell you, but
my whole catalog of WWE superstars or AEW superstars I pictures with and autographs.
Exactly.
Pretty much got their phone number.
Vast catalog. But
yeah.
Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, do you have anything to add to this, or do you want to move on to the next one?
No, we can move on to the next one. I thought, we spent a diligent amount of time on that.
Yeah. Sorry, it's just one of those things that it's been in my mind, doing so much research and then seeing other people own things. It's just moving on.
No, it was a great topic, and in some capacity, it also allowed us just really to talk about something we would probably talk about off a podcast for our podcast. So I was like, hey, fuck it, just throw it on there.
I mean, I think a lot of people that can relate when they're trying to grow is they can understand where we're coming from as being not as established.
Yeah.
But moving on to something that I did want to do is, good drama for the sake of drama is, last week or last episode, I think it was last episode 3 of the Automana podcast, we were talking about Marvel Phase 5 and Black Panther.
Mm-hmm.
And
might have been 2, but
I didn't think about this at the time, but there's a whole trending thing about recasting the Black Panther, recasting T'Challa, and I was just like, why are they doing this now? It's already filmed. What do people care about? But the reason why they're saying this is because there's been rumors that T'Challa or Chadwick Boseman is still in the film as a full character. And the reason why that is kind of a bad thing, because he said, how can they screw this up, is in the Marvel movies, they've already killed him 3 or 4 times. They killed him in the Black Panther movie. Then he got resurrected with, I forgot whatever that flower thing is. They killed him in Infinity War, and he came back in Endgame. So they've already killed him off twice. And now with this new movie, it's potentially a 3rd time, and people are starting to get insulted about it. That they're like, if you killed him off twice already, why do you keep bringing him back, even though he's unfortunately passed away? You could have already introduced another character at this time.
So he's the Kenny of the Marvel universe?
I guess. I mean, obviously there's other characters that passed away too and then came back, but it's just, because of, Chadwick's unfortunate circumstances of his passing, people are just saying you had perfect time to introduce a new character, but yet you keep capitalizing off of his name.
I mean, once again, I'm not vast in this universe, but isn't every time for him coming back as a character canon?
See, I can't really elaborate too much of that because I haven't read the comics, but I think the one in Infinite War might have just been movie purposes, and I don't know if that's actually happening in comics. There's probably been multiple deaths in comics I don't know about, and that's
Mhm,
probably for every character. But
mhm.
speaking of live action and only live action, they've had time to introduce a new character, but they keep bringing him back even though his passing has already happened. And like I said, I personally I just want to see it. I don't really care too much about it, but
Mhm.
seeing other people's opinions about them being upset how Disney is just capitalizing off of Chadwick Boseman's name
Oh,
is
that is
insulting.
so BS. How Disney is so freaking rich. What do they need to capitalize on anything? Like
Well,
it's
they'll capitalize on whatever. I mean, you've seen with Star
well,
Wars what they'll do.
okay, in that regard, yes. But what I'm getting at is like they're they're number one in the world. Like that is peanuts. Not even peanuts to them.
Well, yeah, but I'm just saying that the fact that they're, even if it's like a 1% increase of money, to their billions and trillions or whatever, I think people just have a bad taste in their mouth because like I said, he passed away. They've had time to introduce another person, but they keep bringing him back even though he's gone.
so would that be in your opinion would that be a similar comparison to the Batman movie with Heath Ledger then?
I would say it's more close to comparison of Fast and the Furious with Paul Walker.
Well, I don't know, man. Like I feel like it's one of those things. I hate to say where people are going to complain just for the sake of complaining. I don't see anything wrong with it. I personally think it's great. I mean, you're whether you want to call it homage or maintaining the legacy. I feel like it's more respectful to keep them in any capacity as much as possible. But that's just my opinion, right? Just like they have their opinions. It's really a perceptive thing, man. In my opinion,
No,
like
you're absolutely right. Like I'm holding my opinion on it until I see the movie,
mhm,
because like people are just purely speculating. Like there's just nonstop rumors, and that's what people are getting kind of worked up about.
mhm.
I'm gonna
I
hold
think
my
another
opinion until I see what the final out product is, or final
I think
product
another
is.
comparison in this same realm is Carrie Fisher from Star Wars.
Yeah, and how they brought her back and they killed Harrison
I mean,
Ford.
it really is like it's. I mean, different fans, different fan base, but like I almost feel like going back. I don't mean to take the. I know we're talking about Black Panther, but like for Carrie Fisher, I think if somehow she was removed, I think there would have been a larger outcry that why did that happen?
it,
So like I think right now it's like maybe this is stemming because there's probably like genuine spoilers that are being released, and this is why there's a certain percentage of outcry. I think when it does come out, that shift would change because then the ones that do like it would probably outweigh the ones that didn't.
and adding on to your point, because like I said, for Black Panther 2, I have to hold my opinions because I haven't seen it. But the
Mm-hmm.
best examples of bringing back somebody that unfortunately passed in real life into a movie, Star Wars was a good example, and so is Ghostbusters. Like Carrie Fisher, she passed away before the ninth film was finished, so they just used extra footage that they had laying around and CGI'd her in. But in the ninth film, they gave her a proper send off in the films as well. Like she used the last of her abilities to save, I believe, Ray, and then because of her using her Force essence to save her, she had passed away or save her son, one of the two. I forgot who she saved, but she did in a way where it was like she was a savior. She sacrificed her for the good of the world or the Star Wars universe, and then she moved on.
Mm-hmm.
They did her character justice, just like they did for Ghostbusters Afterlife with the real Ghostbuster passing away and then bring him back. Black Panther, I hope they do the same thing because obviously Disney worked with Star Wars, so they'll probably do the same thing with Black Panther. So that's what I'm holding my opinions, but I'm
I have
hoping
I
they give
have
it a good send off.
I have all the confidence in the world they're gonna do it right. Like I you know that they can't fuck that up.
I
They're,
mean,
they're, they're Disney.
I mean, people have messed a lot of things up in the past. So, like I said, I'm holding
But
my.
has Disney messed it up
I
in
mean,
the
they
past?
probably messed up things in the past.
Well, look,
I won't be
okay,
able to
look.
remember all of them.
Bambi should never have to witness, the mom get shot.
If we're going that far back,
some
there's been
bad
more
things.
Disney movies that have been very questionable. But
But I'm saying current circa Disney. I don't think they're gonna mess that up. I really don't.
well, I guess this goes back to the opinions because, in my opinion,
It does. It always does. It's people's moral compasses. Like it's just what it really boils down to is how you grieve, right? Some people grieve by weeping and that's their way of grieving. And some people will be like, "Don't talk to me. Don't mention." Da, 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 da. And others want to talk about it. And like it all boils down into the person. And right now, I feel like you're just hearing the loud negative people right now.
oh yeah, 100%. That's why I brought it up. But to your point of modern Disney, have they screwed up? And obviously, this is just my opinion. But there's a movie called Red. It's about this. It's about this girl, kind of transitioning from a kid to her teenage years, and the whole premise is her emotions take over. She turns into a red panda. But the sub reasoning is that because she's going through her transition phase as a human, what do they call it? Puberty. Her emotions are getting, crazy because of puberty kicking in. And they also talk about other things that personally I don't want to hear. But maybe for a female, they might love that movie because it talks on real female topics. But for me, it just felt weird that they were almost, like I said, this is just my opinion, but it almost felt like they were kind of sexualizing a teenager. And I didn't like it. Because they were talking about boys, what they thought, at their room at night. And it was creepy for me. And that's why I didn't like Red. But I know that a lot of female audiences, from what I've read, their comments and reviews, they loved it because it talked on topics that they relate to.
Yeah, and that's once again, that's in my opinion, that's Disney being successful because they were catering to the audience that they knew who they wanted to cater to.
Yeah.
So,
But I'm just saying, like, my personal opinion, that would be the one modern movie that they screwed up on. But they've also
doesn't count there because you got. I'm not gonna say.
I know, but I'm just saying, like, you're right. The audience that they're catering to, they succeeded in.
Mm-hmm.
But anybody else that's watched Disney stuff, it was a miss. And that movie wasn't successful. But if you're talking about success based on targets, the audience they're targeting, then it was successful. But overall, it was one of their lowest films.
And which one was that again? I'm sorry, I missed that.
I believe it was just called Red.
Oh no! Didn't you say a different one? No, that was the same one you're just talking about. Okay, my fault.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No, but I was just saying, like,
right into a different thing because you're talking about reaching certain audiences, and I thought you threw a different one in there really quickly at the end. I'm like, wait, what?
No, I was talking about that, but I'm just saying, like, if we're to say one movie that, in my opinion, was a screw up, it'd be that one. But then, like I said, that's just my opinion, and other people will clearly counter that.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I just thought it was interesting, like that we talked about it in the previous episode, and then I seen it trending on Twitter for Black Panther and how they feel like it's almost an insult. Like I said, you have a different version of that. I'm still holding my opinion until I see the movie because there is a way to do it right, and I'm hoping that they do, like with Star Wars and Ghostbusters. But it's yet to be seen. But I just thought it was coincidental that we were talking about, and the next thing I know, it's on Twitter. People are like getting upset about them potentially keeping T'Challa in just for the sake of monetary purposes or promotion purposes.
I mean, I chalk that up as to somebody wanting to buy into a conspiracy theory. Like, and those people are going to be out there too, right? Like, you're not going to change those perceptions. They're always going to be there. And you're going to have different opinions. Like, for everything we just covered, you're going to have an array of people that are going to have that mindset for every different type of opinion. And that's just it. That's the way of the world.
Yeah. It was just it was one of those topics that, like, I seen, I'm like, that was so funny that we were just talking about, and then it just, like, our conversation somehow managed to go on Twitter, and other people had the same.
I honestly thought the reason why we talked about it because it already was a talking point. So.
Well, yeah, it was already a previous talking point.
For you for being ahead of that.
Yeah, see, like, we were just talking about it, and then it somehow trended on Twitter. I'm like, hey, I guess people were having the same conversation we were having.
Yeah.
But I guess we can move on to the next one, which this one, I guess, is going to be another drama-filled one. But last episode, I believe, we talked about, PlayStation blocking games from certain companies, and they're paying exclusive rights.
Yes.
I was talking about my opinion how I think that was the worst idea because it limits himself to only their console. Well, today, or it might have been a little bit before, but I say it today,
Hmm.
that one of PlayStation's staple games that they were trying to promote for a long time and say this is only just a PlayStation exclusive is
Hmm.
Death Stranding. Then a year later, it came to PC, and now it's coming to Game Pass for Xbox. And I'm not sure if it's coming to Xbox console, but I know it's definitely coming to Xbox Game Pass for PC. And a lot of people are upset about this, saying, "Oh, why is Kojima betraying us? I thought he was a PlayStation fan. Now he's going over to the trader side of Xbox." And people are obviously like this back and forth, loyalty war going on. But I just
Hmm.
think it's funny that one PlayStation game, which I think this is a great idea, that one PlayStation game that was exclusive is now coming over to the Xbox side with full support of achievements, and Hideo Kojima is potentially making another game exclusively with Xbox.
So, how do you want me to respond to this?
So
I mean,
I guess to
like,
backtrack this up is it's interesting that how we were talking about before how PlayStation was successful for a while, but they're starting to feel that chokehold of being limited, and now because they're branching out to they're giving their games out to multiple platforms, they're not getting hate from their own fan base saying why are you
I
giving this up, and then hate from the other side of oh now you're losing your properties.
I think that losing the properties is an inevitable thing, and it'll only stick with money, right? I think where PlayStation is shooting themselves in the foot, and not just only PlayStation. I think this is can be arguably true with Microsoft as well. Not so much Nintendo, but kind of also revisiting a topic we talked on a previous podcast as well, where like there's a lack of um, mascots, right? There's a lack of IPs from our early years that we talked about in previous podcasts. And I think that's true with PlayStation, and well, we'll just stay on PlayStation for right now. Where's their IPs? Where's their exclusiveness? I know, like you were saying that you know exclusiveness, uh, you know, isn't good, but it isn't to a certain capacity. But I think in order to have an identity with your company, you have to have something.
See,
Like, but where they're shooting themselves in the foot is they don't have it. So they've been relying on third party developers to just buy them to create content for them and say, here's your check. But once either the contract expires or who knows, maybe they're getting a little cheap on that check and they have every right to go to the other side or whatever you want to, coin it. Now they did themselves as a service by not having their own company create their own content.
and so you're right. That people do need their identities, but I do feel like you can still have your identity but still be multi-platform. Like for example, Epic
If
used to be exclusively with Xbox, and then they branched out, did their own thing, and then Fortnite took over, and now it's its own identity on multiple platforms.
if if every single Nintendo IP was on all three systems, would Nintendo even exist anymore?
Yeah, I think it would. I think they'd be more
I,
known as a developing studio more than a console studio.
and that's kind of what I was getting at.
But they would still be known for making those staple,
They would be
memorable
known for
games.
making those games, but they wouldn't have the Nintendo hardware anymore.
Yes,
I mean,
but
I
they
mean,
would still have their identity of Mario, Kirby, Pokemon. They would still have that identity.
what I'm saying is they wouldn't be in the hardware race anymore, and that's what I'm talking about with Sony is that they could find themselves. I mean, maybe. I mean, this
You know,
probably still will never happen. But if they don't have an identity with exclusive properties and everything is with the exception of Nintendo, we're keeping them on the side, just looking and laughing. But if everything were to end up on both Microsoft and Sony, there could be a potential to, well, why do we need that system when we could have this system? Primarily because of their Game Pass. Because I think it's without saying that their Game Pass option is far superior than Sony's.
so to just to play a counter here.
Mm-hmm.
If Nintendo games did go to multiple platforms, you said it would probably erase Nintendo as a hardware company.
Mm-hmm.
But in my opinion, it would change the whole idea and how they'd approach their consoles and make it, a competitive thing where they would need to start focusing on making their console either better than their competitors and causing, games to run better on their system. Like that's how Nintendo used to be. Like, the SNES, NES, GameCube, they were very powerful performing consoles, even when the PlayStation 2 was out. So they would have to kind of step up the game on hardware performance then than just relying on their exclusive rights to their games. And I think they could still be in the hardware business, but they just have to focus on performance and, just how it operates. And that's how Xbox and PlayStation have been doing. They've been competing who can run games better, how high they can run their games, how quick in their loading times be, how much storage do they have, what functions does it have. Like Xbox and PlayStation have been competing with each other performance wise for so many years that Nintendo, because they're so exclusive, they didn't have to worry about competing hardware wise because they're like, hey, we got this locked in. But if they did introduce Nintendo to other platforms, they could still be on the hardware. They just had to compete hardware wise too. That's it.
They would be left no choice, but why should they? Why would they? I mean, they have the luxury of arguably the best IPs in video games.
Oh yeah, I'm just saying if they did go down that route, they would just have to focus on making their consoles better. But like you said, they're in a position where they don't care. But correct. There is going to come a time where they are going to have to care.
I don't think so. Not with that IP, man. They could run that for generations to come.
I see. This is where as much as right now they're in a very good spot. They have Pokemon, Kirby. They just released Metroid. But I'm not sure if you notice, it's becoming longer and longer. Like they basically shelved Star Fox. They are no longer working on new Smash Bros.
Dude, time out. Are they on a shelf? Yes, but they're not shelved.
It's still to be seen. So far, they've been working on Pokemon, Mario, and Kirby. That's it.
I guarantee you, they are not shelved. They are on a shelf.
Okay, look at the IP that they've been promoting. So far, it's just Zelda, it's just Pokemon, it's just Mario. Those seem to be the three main focuses. Everything else is on the back burners that they don't seem...
To my point is that's how lucrative they have their IPs. Is they're so fucking successful, they don't even have to use them all.
I think they're struggling with ideas to use them.
That is such... No, I don't.
I think they are with certain IPs. I think they're struggling with ideas. So. You could tell with Metro Prime, or no, sorry, what was the recent Metro that came out?
Dread.
Metro Dread. We can see that Metro Prime 4 was supposed to be the game, but they haven't figured that out yet. They're still developing it, so they made Metroid Dread.
Because Nintendo really cares about the product they put out. Look how long Zelda's taking. But you're right. Prime, I don't know where it's at. No one knows where it's at. But it's there somewhere. It is. And
maybe.
And I'm saying when, and we're getting truly off topic now, but when it gets released, it will be glorious.
So, like I said.
By the way, that's another franchise I'd love to see done in live action. Can you imagine?
Samus?
Metroid? Oh, God.
Dude, I'd love to see Samus without her mech suit. But no, like I said, there's no denying that Nintendo has very popular property. But I feel like they're gonna hit that point in the next possibly 10 years where they're gonna start running out. And you could tell this because some of the main people that have been remaking Mario, Pokemon are starting to retire, and I think the new talent can't keep up with the vision that Nintendo wants to hold.
Okay, if you're going to use that narrative, I don't want to fully agree with you, but it is a concern. I will tell you that it's a concern. Because you're right, we don't know what the new generation is going to do to nurture and maintain and blossom those IPs.
Because we can already
So
see what's. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
no, so like I could see why that could be a concern, but I also, if I may say this, blindly believe that the people that have been there for day one are going to make sure it ends in the right hands.
I think they would try to help them as much as they can before they leave. But, for example, one of the Nintendo's newest IPs, which I'm not going to say is a failure because I personally like it, it's called Splatoon. It's one of their new IPs by a new studio. But they're not nearly as successful as any other properties. And I feel like that's where the new generation is going to struggle with, is that they won't know how to adjust to new stuff.
I, for one, have never played it, nor do I plan on it. I can't really, I don't have a lot of fuel to fire back at you whether how successful it is. One thing I do know is it is successful. I just don't know the magnitude. Like, for example, my friend's son adores that game, and he can't wait for the next installment to come out. So, like, and it's pretty popular. I think they're actually going to have, winning tournaments, like, Pokemon tournaments where cash prize and all that stuff with that game. So I don't know. But the reason, what I do want to tell you is the reason why it may not seem like it's as successful as the point that you just made. It's a newer IP. It hasn't had the years of a Mario, a Donkey Kong, a Zelda, and the list goes on and on and on.
I agree.
So that's why it doesn't seem like it's as successful, because it is new.
And like I said, I do love Splatoon, so I want to succeed because I love the concept of being a shooter with paint, and you go in and.
I mean, I don't know if it was just inevitable and just because they're associated with Nintendo, but they were in freaking Smash Brothers, for crying out loud.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, like,
not everybody gets invited to the Smash Brothers tournament now. Come on, you know that.
Well, it's true. I mean, there's some people that don't want to be in the Smash tournament, but so be it.
That's probably true too.
But it's funny that we're talking about Nintendo when it was originally PlayStation. But,
I know, and I said it like 5 minutes ago. We're falling off the rails here, but anyway.
Yeah.
But that's my that's what I wanted to say is I think both consoles, for that matter, not just Sony, should have more exclusive IPs. Like I don't know. I just fully think they need it.
I see your point, and I'll give you the saying, yeah, you're right. They do need some properties to keep people there, but because I'm also against gatekeeping, I like, for example, I have all the systems. I have PlayStation, Xbox, Nintendo, and I love them all. I feel like, and this may be just me being, inclusive to all, but I'd love for everybody to just experience Pokemon or God of War, not just on that system, but on any system they choose. I think maybe because I'm for inclusion of playing on whatever platform you want. I think that's why I'm so different from that. But you are correct. If they do that, they might have to compete in other avenues, like, game services or hardware services that are going to make them maybe focus less on games. So I don't know. I think this is more of a dual-sided topic that maybe doesn't have a right answer. Maybe they're both right answers.
It truly, I think it obviously can be multi-layered, but like, I don't know. Like, I think, like, I don't know what would be considered the golden age of video gaming, but like,
I feel like this is the golden age of video gaming because everything is so connected with each other. Like, we have a lot of great games, even though people want to say they don't. There's a lot of good indie games. There's a lot of good AAA games. And the fact that we have crossplay with each other.
It totally is a golden age. And when you talk about mobile, for example, and for the indies, like, I mean, actually, if I may, can really thank Nintendo for that, and Nintendo Shop for the indies. They really helped out the indies. Before mobile popped off, yeah.
I would say Xbox helped way more. No, actually, I'm sorry. I take that back. I say Steam helped indie games much more than any other service. Because if you look at the Steam library, it's 90% indie games that they're just constantly promoting on the featured page.
It's hard for me to disagree. I haven't been there for the inception, but I know, like, obviously where it's evolved to, and now there's tons of also just re-releases on Steam, which is fine because Steam kind of has that, as you're saying, that centralized, hey, we love everybody, give us your stuff type of avenue. But yeah. But like, even going back to like pre-Sony and pre-Microsoft, when you were a wee lad, or maybe you weren't even born yet, but like just the the Super Nintendo versus Sega Genesis timestamp, and then and then at some time they had the Jaguar that faltered, and they had the shit. What other system tried to come forward? They had identities. Sega has Sonic, Nintendo had Mario, and then Sega had Earthworm Jim, and they had other IPs that were notorious with them. And then Sony came around; they had Crash Bandicoot.
And just like Sega, Nintendo will fall.
Okay, there you go again. You just want to go back to the demise of Nintendo.
I think I just want to say that to mess with you at this point.
I know. I just wish we could make a gentleman's bet on this, because and you put your money where your mouth is, because I don't envision it happening.
What bet do you want to take?
The Switch has been the most successful console for them, and honestly, in my humble opinion, it has been their best console.
I agree. Plus, they had a good concept of being handheld and stationary. I think that's what people love.
And every other system wanted, and I don't know what's stopping them from stealing. I don't think really Nintendo owns that as a patent, right?
Not anymore. I think they probably had it for a while, but ever since the NVIDIA Shield came out, and then now Steam Deck, the competition is growing, and that's why I think Nintendo has to do something, because Steam Deck is now their direct competitor. And Steam Deck, it's very popular. But the amount of things you can do with modern games, emulated games, like basically the Steam Deck can play the catalog of Wii U games to NES.
I'll tell you how they resolve this right now.
They can't sue them.
Huh?
They can't sue them. A lot of that ROM property.
No.
Okay.
The way Nintendo resolves that with one fucking decision is stop porting your fucking games.
Well, that's up to the developers, because all they would have is just their main AAA games. Yes.
Not entirely.
Okay, explain.
I'm talking about just their own library. Their own library itself is so fucking massive.
But a lot of it's third-party developed games.
No, they're fucking the IPs they own.
Yes, but that's very minor compared to the library that they own.
No.
Like, they have... We can go back to the properties.
Okay, if we had this conversation multiple times. What I'm saying is, if they were to open up the floodgates and say, you know what, you now own an account, you could purchase all the Marios, all the whatevers, all the Zeldas one time, and you now own it forever for all the future systems and consoles that come out moving forward. That would resolve the Steam situation, in my opinion.
Obviously it's going to be one of those disagree to agree moments, because like I said, I will agree that their property is good, but there's just not enough to keep them afloat if they just did that. Like, they'll make money, it just won't be enough money to keep them relevant.
I'm saying that in my opinion, that's the start of the decision. Yes, they would have to get the third parties involved, just like they do with Steam, but unless Steam takes the Sony approach, how I pull it full circle, and they start paying for developers like, oh no, you can't put that on the Nintendo shop, you're with Steam. Then you might get into a different war, right? You might get into a different war. But I think it has to start there, in my opinion. Now, I'm going to end that conversation there and then pull it back to Sony, Microsoft. I think the next war, now let's make it a four-way war, because you threw Steam in there. But I think for Sony and Microsoft, they need to enter that realm, and they need to enter it fast.
I think, well, like I said, this is just going to be opinion-based, but I think the way that Xbox has it now, because they are on 3 platforms, they don't have to do that, because like Steam is the only competitor to Xbox because of how vast their selection is. Like, it's the only thing that can compete with Xbox at this point. Obviously, Steam is still in the lead because of how their selection is, but Steam will have to move on to mobile too to keep staying relevant with Xbox. So far, PlayStation is playing catch up because, like I said, they've limited themselves before. That's why they're finally porting it to PC, and now that they're finally bringing it to Xbox too, because they realized how badly they limited themselves just to themselves.
They were also, not to give them a sad reprieve, but they were also a victim of circumstance to timing with COVID and supply chain issues and all that shit. They're still they're
it was a
still
double
learning
hit for
from it.
them. Yeah,
Huh?
it was a double hit. You know,
Oh
one
yeah,
with the
it was horrible. Like it was just like
it's horrible timing.
horrible timing. Like I mean, it doesn't. It's not the only reason why they're in this situation, but they're they're still not caught up.
Yeah. And I know I'm probably coming off like an Xbox fanboy. You can see right there that I have a PlayStation 5. But, you know, it's just like obviously every company goes through this phase where they're behind. Like Xbox, you could easily say from 2013 to 16 they were behind because, you know, they made everything about being online connected, which turns out at the time they were right. It just, you know, sometimes you could be ahead of time and be wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Um But because, you know, PlayStation felt like they were in such a lead, which can happen with Xbox because they did it with the 360 where they were in the lead and then fumbled it. I think right now PlayStation needs to, you know, I think they're on the right track of branching their games out to multiple systems and areas so people can experience it. Because, like, you know, just like Nintendo, PlayStation has really good properties too. Obviously, you know, they might go on the edge more photorealistic, but God of War is good, Last of Us is good, Horizon's good, and people want to play those games. And I think them going to other platforms is going to be a win for them because more people are buying from them.
I don't know. I would have to see figures to concur with that assessment, but I just personally don't think it's the right move. I think if you truly do have good properties like that, in my opinion, you just got to hold on to them. But once again, I don't know the figures. I don't know the dollars associated with making those moves. But it also depends on the direction of their company. Like, you know, do they want to fall off hardware and become like a Sega and just be a developer? But what are you developing if you don't have no exclusive products? Then you're not doing anything.
I'm not gonna count because there'll be another argument there. But to the one example of it actually benefiting them is they had an exclusive game called Days Gone. You know, obviously everybody's opinion could be like it was bad, it was good, it was whatever. I don't care, but because it was on PlayStation, it was limited, and I think it only sold like maybe 3 million copies, which to a lot of people that's successful. But they basically had to keep pushing it by making it free for PlayStation Plus, then eventually free for the PlayStation connection, and that only pushed them to about maybe 5 million. But once they put it over to PC, it doubled it to 10 million. So basically, when they introduced Days Gone to PC as a market, they doubled their selling by basically by 2 times. Like they went from 3 million selling to 5 million with it free, and then 10 million with it being introduced to Steam.
Well, if there's one thing that's, dare I say, certain, is there is going to be more homes in the world that'll have a computer versus a console. Like, I don't want to go on a limb and say that's fact, but it might be. I mean, in today's day of age, just like almost like 10-year-olds now have cell phones, right? Like, and that's why mobile is so damn fucking huge. But like, I just don't know the figures of what the what's the word I'm looking for? What the I don't know, like how much they're making off of a sale of a video game versus, you know, luring people to have to buy their system, because that's what it really boils down to, right? Like the IP has to be that damn good that, you know what, I have to buy the system, which is what I eventually succumb to when I'm waiting for something. That's the reason why I don't own a PS5. I will get a PS5 come December because I want Crisis Core. I also want to play the new Batman, but it's not out yet. Or is it out yet? I think I think it just came out, right?
No, I think it's coming out soon. I don't think it's out yet.
Okay, but either way, that was another one I was waiting on. I kind of wanted to play Stray, but now that I know it's only like a 4-hour game,
Hey,
but, like,
you don't talk bad about Stray. It could be 6 hours if you enjoy your time.
I was looking forward to it.
Nope. You were talking blasphemous. I had to stop you.
But needless to say, I wasn't going to be a PS. I wasn't a PS4 day one until PS4. I wasn't a day one buyer. All the previous ones I was. Uh, but even for 4, I wasn't, because there was nothing exclusive that I needed to get, and it wasn't on the other platforms either. So I was forced to wait.
So here, I'm gonna give you a little bit of a free one here.
Okay.
So to your point, if you want to say exclusive needs to be a thing because it helps systems, to your point, that could be true because if you, I'm not sure if you knew this, but the PlayStation, well, basically since the PS3 days, both Xbox and PlayStation don't make a profit selling systems. They're actually negative. Because like right now for PS5, if they want to make a profit, the system would need to sell at $1,000. But because they knew that that'd be too expensive, they don't do that. That's why they utilize, PlayStation Now or PlayStation Plus, because that's where they make up their extra money, and then their games bring in the rest of that.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess if you want to say that the exclusives is the only thing keeping them afloat because consoles don't make a profit, then I'll give you that.
Well, that would, yeah, well, yeah, that would obviously remain true, because to my point, if they don't have exclusives, then what are they actually making? Nothing.
Absolutely nothing unless you Game Pass.
Absolutely nothing. And like, you know, I don't.
And that's the and I guess I'm counting myself here as I think that's the only reason why I'm promoting Game Pass is because only because they're on 3 platforms and they're making sales from all those games and then all the services being introduced, that they no longer have to worry about exclusives just because of all the capital being brought in from 3 different avenues.
Yeah, and that's why I agree. That's why they're ahead of, the race in that aspect, because they're doing it. I mean, I don't know. I guess it's also, once again, being me old fashioned, but I still love my physical mediums.
Oh, dude, I love physical. I got whole stacks right here that I just.
I know. Like I am a sucker for that collector's edition. I'm a sucker for that limited edition. I'm not. I mean, you can get it with a digital version, but
it just doesn't feel the same.
It's definitely not the same. Like, I like tangible items.
Yeah, but we're also old school like that too.
and there's resale. You can't resell digital.
You're right. I'm totally in agreement with you. I prefer physical media than digital.
That's exactly why GameStop started getting into toys and cell phones and all that other shit, because the digital market hurt them.
Yeah, but I can also understand the digital market too. One, for the sake of convenience. I do think I think the game should be cheaper because they're cutting out, the production.
110%. That's the part that always mind blows the hell out of me.
Yeah, because they're no longer making CDs. They're no longer printing cover arts. You should easily save $10 in a game for that.
Easily, that is probably just straight greed.
Yeah, but like I understand both sides. Like, I'm obviously a huge fan of physical media because I collect it and I think it's fun, especially for the retrading value or collecting value. But I also understand where digital comes in and the convenience of it. I would say it needs to be cheaper because they're cutting out the middleman of production. But you have it on your system, you can download it, delete it whenever you want, and re-download it whenever you want. It's just and it doesn't take up any space. There's no clutter. It's just all right there in a digital environment.
I just like I don't know how big of a problem this is, but like, with the capacity of memory, I know you just said, you could delete, reinstall and all that stuff. I call that a hassle, but at some point, memory reaches a maximum capacity. So like, I know these games aren't small files.
Oh yeah, like Call of Duty, for example, I think it's like 238 gigabytes, maybe even more.
And I think the largest culprits are any type of sports game. Not that I really play them anymore.
I think they're only like, I mean, they're still relatively big at 100 gigabytes, but I don't think I think Call of Duty so far is the biggest one.
Is it? Okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I'll be honest, I was definitely one of those that poo-pooed it from the start. Like, that's gonna go nowhere. But that's definitely how the world evolved, right? So, I think, or I wonder, and maybe you, and we're going off topic here by me asking this, but I wonder what the next big thing is. Like, where does it evolve to after, digital?
it gets beamed into your brain.
I don't know. I don't know. But
But
just throwing it out there.
I mean, the only way it can evolve is obviously being more digital. Like, I play VR.
what, what's being more digital?
So here I'll explain. So
That's exactly that's what I'm looking for.
so I'm I'm not gonna say I'm for or against VR. Like, it has its moments. It's cool in some aspects, but I still don't like the idea of putting a gadget on your head and being connected. But that would be it. If there was an evolution, it'd be more towards interactive, where you're basically teleported into the game, like VR. And that'd be the only avenue where it evolves past, just playing digital games on a console. The next one is you digitize yourself in a digital video game.
So real life mocap. But yeah, no, I'm with you. I mean, that much I could, I do agree with. Like, the whoever could get VR right, and that's the problem with it is the limitations, because like everybody has this, and I'm guilty of it too, has this perception that you could play a VR game exactly how you would play a game on a controller, and that is far from the truth. VR games are, or at least the last ones I've played, maybe it has gotten a little bit better, but the ones I've had played are so limited that it's like playing Octopath on your phone versus playing on a fucking Switch. So
yeah, it is still very limited. Like,
but even with those limitations, I just don't know how. I don't know how you could achieve that full flexibility of playing, like, for example, a Jedi in Star Wars, without having that extreme thousands of dollars system where you're like on this circular treadmill and you're in a fucking fence where you can't fall off and hurt yourself, and you could do all this type of stuff and not have to worry about damaging anything.
Have you ever seen Ready Player One?
I haven't seen it from beginning to end. No.
Okay, so to your just like everything, things will become cheaper. Like, this multi-$1,000 setup right now could easily be $500 in the future.
100%. I mean, look at TVs, for example. Jesus.
Yeah, a 30-inch would cost you like $1,000 in like early 2000s. Now
TVs are, I mean, in my opinion, compared to decades ago, they're dirt cheap.
Oh yeah, like I could buy a 50-inch for $200. A 50-inch in 2009 would have been like easily $2,000.
Yeah, more.
Yeah, but so going back to Ready Player One, is like, I've obviously, this may just be like the sci-fi fear in me that I don't like being connected, because I feel like there could be a lot of things that go wrong, but there could be a lot of things that go right. But I feel like if VR was to take over, it would have to take the Ready Player One approach, where you can have immersive gear where you're in the game, but anything you touch in the game, you can feel. Obviously, you won't get hurt from the game, but you'll have physical touch. You could touch like, for example, Star Wars. If you're holding a lightsaber, you can feel the weight of a lightsaber in your hand. Like, I feel like that'd be the only way for VR to like be the next evolution, but I still think we're probably 50 years off from that.
I wouldn't say 50, but there is accessories that do that. Like, I don't think they're not sold or endorsed by the big companies we know today, like the Sonys and Microsofts, but people have made like those vibrating vests that they could put on and wear, and when they get hit, it'll vibrate in that portion of their body. So the technology is out there.
Yeah, but it's just like,
it needs to be mainstream, and then to your point, it has to be sold at a price that the consumers are able to afford.
Yeah, because you are right. There is versions of technology out there. Like, for example, surgeons, they use a simulation device in VR where they practice operating on people, and they can feel the
operation.
Yeah, I think it's called something different. But going to your point, there is stuff like that. But I feel like the immersion technology hasn't fully developed to the point where it needs to be. Like, obviously, we got a certain variant of it, but it still needs work.
Oh, I'm not disagreeing with you. It all needs work. The entire VR experience needs work. But what I will say that I was in awe of, and it wasn't even really like 4K HD in the experience of that magnitude. It was, I don't know what the definition was, but just to be even in a simulation and just put in an environment that you normally wouldn't be in and go to, for me was breathtaking enough.
Mm.
So just to now add in the value of um, interacting, I think would be like awesome. You know what? I think now that we're talking about more, like even just the stationary approach of being put into an environment, even just I think the most successful way or approach that could be done is really straight from like turn-based RPGs. Like, I mean, serious. For example, like even like let's take Final Fantasy VII, right? Imagine a VR approach to that. You're just standing where Cloud stands, and you're moving based on your actions. How cool that would be!
I need you to play VR now because there's already games like that.
Oh, okay, well then, well,
Like where you're basically the character.
yeah,
Obviously, you can't feel it, but you're still holding it. But
yeah.
like there's people that play as Spider-Man. They swing around objects.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's already stuff like that. It's just like
I
I
know
don't,
motion sickness has a lot to do with a lot of people too.
it also depends on the controls of the game because the controls in the game really make a difference. Like some controls you hold triggers to like swing around and touch objects.
Right.
Some of
Mm-hmm.
them use the joysticks, and that but obviously it's person dependent. But for me, the joystick movement is what
Mm-hmm.
causes the major motion sickness because you're
Gotcha.
basically moving your head to view, but the
Mm-hmm.
joystick almost feels unnatural with your movement of looking. That
Mm-hmm.
causes that motion sickness. And then you also got that screen blur when you're walking with the
Mm-hmm.
joystick. So when you're
Yeah.
viewing, it's just like you're looking, there's blur, and you're like, what the hell's going on?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, I mean, I don't own a VR, and unfortunately, don't know too many people that do. So I don't really truly know what's out there. All I know is what I have experienced has been nothing short than like phenomenal. Even how crappy it may have looked, like I was just like, wow, this is amazing.
I was impressed when I played Robo Recall. It was a free demo with the Rift or Quest, and I still think that's a fun shooter game. Like just
Yeah.
the controls was just very smooth.
Like I remember I was playing one that was just a simple oh, crap, what is it called, like where you just shoot at like waves of spaceships or whatever, and
Space
you just had to
Invaders?
die. Huh?
Space Invaders?
I mean, kind of, yeah. Like you just stood on a circular platform and you're looking left to right and around, and you have to dodge the projectiles. And I was just like, the graphics were shit, but I didn't care because the play style and everything was just so dynamic and awesome. Like the graphic aspect didn't even matter. It was just so fun.
So I guess we can keep talking about whatever, but I guess to almost wrap this up because we just hit 3 hours.
We just hit 3 hours.
So
Longest episode ever.
it's funny how much we can really like keep branching onto one topic and adding to something else. But so do you see PlayStation games going to multiple platforms as a win or loss? I'm for it, but I know some people are against it for the reasons that you mentioned, and I'm not saying your reasons are wrong.
It depends. I mean, for me, it just doesn't matter. It really doesn't. It just depends on what are they trying to have as success. Are they trying to be number one in I can even talk successful company because they want their system to be number one, or do they want to make money? I think if they want to make money, then the route to go is probably to share everything they can and make money off it that way, because they are not winning in the other realm right now. And I feel like they're behind. So if they want to win, and just to say, might not even be a win in how much money they bring in on an annual basis, but if they want to say they're the number one console, then they have to have more exclusive and stay exclusive, in my opinion.
Mm. And I'll just
But
wrap it up.
It depends on what they want.
And I'll just wrap it up.
What is their claim to fame? That's it. Seriously,
I agree. You're absolutely correct. There's a couple avenues they can go on, and depending on which avenue they go on, it'll define their version of success. They're
still not going to win the console because Switch is killing them.
Oh, you know what? Right now, live stream. I'm going to your house. You get whatever the alliance sword is. I got Frostmourne, and we're fighting right now.
Dude, come on, you know I'm right.
But
it's facts.
But to move on, I personally see this as a win because I think that PlayStation has a lot of good games, and I'm happy to see more platforms get to play those good games. So that's where I'll end it. Is there anything else you want to add?
Nothing. I'll try to share more info. Well, I can't do it on the podcast, but no, I'm just happy I got selected for this thing. So
yeah. So Wednesday, we don't know time yet. Make sure you follow us on social media. You can follow me at Josh Recast.
At 5 p.m. Central Time, all the way to like midnight.
And then you can follow the Real Shiesty. Like I said, they'll be in the description. There'll be a link to both of our social medias. But make sure you watch him Thursday for his invitation of whatever events he may have signed up for in World of Warcraft.
The World of Warcraft variety show to be streamed on Twitch's official Warcraft channel, but it'll also now be on my channel at The Real Shiesty because I've been chosen as a contestant.
I wish you the best luck. I'll be in your stream during that time, and hopefully you win. If not, you bring great dishonor to our family.
I will greatly bring dishonor, and you're going to like it. And please feel free to share our podcast with anyone you know that would enjoy the content we're talking about, and come and join us on our next episode, as you could chime in on our chat and maybe even enter the conversation with us.
Yes. So episode 5 should be August. Hold on. When is the date?
26th.
August 26th will be episode 5, as long as nothing interferes. Obviously, if you follow us on social media, you'll be updated on whatever happens. But we'll see you guys there. Thank you guys so much for watching, and we'll catch you on the next one. Peace.
Love you.